It's 7:04 or so, and we'll call this meeting to order. Thank you for coming. This is the West River Modified Union Education District meeting. We're gonna quickly introduce ourselves for everybody, and then we'll start with additions and corrections to the agenda. My name is Joe Winrick. I'm a Townshend representative and chair of the board. You wanna go that way and then around?
Emily Long from Newfane.
Trish Scott, I'm from Townsend, but I'm an at-large rep.
Drew Hamilton, Jamaica.
I'm Bill Anton, superintendent. Mike Foley, at-large member from Townsend.
Christina Robinson, Jamaica.
Al Clausen, Townsend, vice chair.
Lindsay Bertram, Newfane.
Ken McFadden, Newfane.
All right, thank you. If you didn't sign in when you came, please make sure you sign in on the little steno pad over there. There should be copies of minutes and other documents around the room that we're discussing. If you don't have a copy of something, let us know. We'll get it for you. And please identify yourself, name and town that you're from if you speak, so that the viewing audience can know who's speaking. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Bill.
I do not have a need for executive session.
Okay.
And I do have an addition for new business.
The Voluntary Exit Incentive Program?
Voluntary Exit Incentive Program.
All righty. So we're going to add Voluntary Exit Incentive Program under new business. Anybody else have any additions, corrections to the agenda? Okay. Okay, members of the public, if you're here to participate again in the discussion on early learning, we have that's basically the meat of the meeting, so I would ask that you would hold your comments and questions and stuff until then. But if you're here to speak on another topic, now's your time.
Tina Bills, Brookline. I have been asked to read a letter from the group, so if I could do that. I don't.
The group?
The community. We have a petition that is out that I'm sure that you've heard about, that has been passed around, has been signed, which has a very large amount of signatures on it. So we, the petitioners of Brookline, Newfane, Jamaica, and Townsend, speak to you as voted representatives of our community. We ask you to stop, listen, and reflect on what we, the public, are asking you to do. And that is to reverse the decision to move the sixth graders to Leland and Gray. We, the public, do not feel that it is the best interest of our children, nor has it been proven that it will be beneficial to our children financially, academically, and/or emotionally. Statistically speaking, according to the Vermont State Assessment results of 2016, the elementary schools of our district are 11.33% above the state average in English. The mathematic results are 12.66% above the state average. Our high school, Leland and Gray, for grades 7, 8, and 11 is currently 10% below the state average for English and 6% below the state average in mathematics. This validates that the better academic model remains in the elementary school. We understand that children are resilient and will survive a big change. However, without any proven gain financially or academically, we want our children the opportunity to thrive, not just survive. And we believe that this is obtained by leaving our children in the elementary school through the sixth grade. According to the Vermont State of Education, the rules and responsibilities in Vermont, the school board members are accountable to the voters. We, the voters, hope that you realize and understand that the people standing before you are just a small representation of a larger population that are opposed to the board's decision. And we feel that by moving forward with that board's decision is creating a divided community. We believe our children deserve to be children and left in the sixth grade with all the benefits and the privileges that they are accustomed to in the elementary school. Sixth graders in the elementary school works well for many reasons. And to quote a board member from the September 11th meeting, this is a great solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Please support and represent the majority of your voters.
Is the plan to actually present the petition to the board at some point?
We have petitions. We are happy to present them tonight if you'd like. We can present them later. We have a lot of signatures on those petitions. We'd be happy to share them.
Well, I mean, typically the petition is presented to cause us to act on something. And we would need the petition and the wording of the petition and everything to move forward on that. But if you want us, if there's a, you know, if you bring it to a different board meeting, that's fine. I didn't know if you were going to present the petition to us tonight or just talk about the petition and then at some point in the future we get the petition. I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Yep. We have a large amount of signatures already. We have petitions with us. We can present them tonight if you want to, or we can present at the next meeting. It doesn't matter to us either way. But you will be getting the petition, one way or the other. So just making you aware and letting you know.
Well, because this isn't a public vote, the petition doesn't actually compel us to do anything, like legally. Because it's a group of our voters and we're responsive to our voters, when we get a petition, we would act on it simply because, you know, it's the same as if those people came here and all asked us to do something, we would do it. But when we're not going to act on the petition until we're presented with it.
I understand that. Yeah, we just want to make you aware. I mean, we know that the hustle bustle has been going around, that there is a petition, and that it's been going around. So we're just being upfront with you, letting you know that it does exist. We have a. You want to give it to him? Okay. We can give you the petition now. These are all of them. You got copies? Who would like to read these?
You can give it to our clerk.
Who's clerk?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So what's the actual language on the petition, Drew? Okay. Thank you.
Hereby ask that the motion be reconsidered. They ask for thoughtful process be undertaken, study data regarding the experience in other communities, for a plan thoroughly vetted, that the board properly consider the wishes of parents in the community. And without actually verifying these.
226 signatures are on there that exist right as of today.
Are they all registered voters?
They are.
And these have been vetted by the town clerks already?
Sorry?
Town clerks have seen these and
The town.
verified that they're actually registered voters? They have to be certified.
They have to be certified? Okay.
Well, again, that's really only in the matter of a public
That's
vote,
true.
where this was actually legally compelling us
Very
to take some action. So,
So the action that they're requesting is a reconsideration.
is a reconsideration, right? So
One of
there.
them was from the Brookline Town Office, that the town office did themselves. So all those people on there are registered voters.
Okay. So the motion to reconsider, yeah,
I was just gonna say, how many voters do we have in our
I don't know. I don't know what the threshold for 5% is,
It's
but,
over 5%.
but we don't.
Yeah, I was just curious.
I don't honestly know.
Do you know what the total number is?
5% would be 183 signatures.
So 10% is 360, so we have 3,600. We have roughly 4,000 voters in the districts using that math. Okay, so the motion to reconsider would then, should there be a motion to reconsider, it has to be made by someone from the prevailing side of the original motion. And then the motion to reconsider, if it passed, would then make the original motion a pending motion again. And if the motion to reconsider fails, then the original motion stands as it was made. Just explaining the whole Robert's Rules piece of it, you know, in case there's actually a motion to reconsider. You have,
Well, I think there's a distinction between reconsider and rescind.
But the petition says reconsider.
It does, and so I would want to check. Do you have that correspondence from the AOE or the VSBA?
Yeah, the VSBA one. Simmons. From Sue.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
You need it?
Yeah. Previous motion can be reversed or changed at a later meeting. Okay, can I just read this?
Sure.
Okay, so in preparation for the reception of the petition, we reached out to the Director of Legal and Policy Services from the Vermont School Boards Association. So from the perspective of Robert's rules, a previous motion can be reversed or changed at a later meeting. If a board member wishes to do this, he would make a motion to rescind or amend the previous motion adopted. The purpose of this motion is to strike out the entire action or change part of it. The motion requires a second and is debatable. It requires a majority vote with previous notice. Previous notice could be including the matter on the agenda as an item, and a 2/3 vote without previous notice. If the motion carries, the previous motion is reversed or changed. So the first decision has to be if the will of the petitioners is to rescind the adopted motion. And do we have the language of the motion?
The motion is
From the 11th?
from the 11th.
Minutes. I
That the
highlighted
board
for you.
adopt the model the administration presented to move the 6th grade to the middle school for the 2019 school year.
Okay, so it would read to me that the first decision would be, is the will of the petitioners to rescind that motion? And if so, then this board should follow Robert's rules under rescinding. Does that make sense?
Sure, but
But the wording
the
in
wording is
is
reconsider.
reconsider, which
And there's a
Mike and
motion
I
for
have looked-
reconsideration.
Right. Is a different
Which is a
process.
different
Different
process.
process, right?
So, Tina, do you have a feeling that, is it a reconsideration or is it a rescinding?
It doesn't matter. It matters what says
It
on
matters
it.
Yeah, it
what's
matters
on
what's
the-
written
Well,
on the
but
petition.
That's
Signatures
what
say
people sign.
reconsider.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, would that be the
can't
language
alter
we would
the
fall
language
under?
of what people sign.
Reconsidering?
It says reconsider, we're gonna be second to legality, so if that's what it says, that's what it says. I mean, we don't want our kids going to Leland and Gray.
Right.
So
I'm just
we
trying to
would-
make sure that they do
We would
the right
like to
thing.
get rid of that, whatever you wanna call it. Revise it, rescind it.
So if the motion goes away, that's rescinded.
That's what we want.
Reconsidering would be a vote, and Mike help me here, that if the board voted to reconsider, then the original motion would stay pending
Right.
versus if you rescind, it would be removed.
But doesn't rescind need a higher threshold to pass, right?
It does,
So,
but they've been asked, the board's been asked to reconsider, that's
Right.
why.
Well, not only that, but I struggle with, the people that signed that specific statement and said reconsider the vote. I would think if we were going to alter our procedure, we would ask that a petition be brought to do that, and the people would sign that. I mean, there is a difference between those. It's not just semantics. It's
No.
legally,
Great.
and if this continues to go the way it goes, I don't want to be skirting legalities.
No.
I think we have to go by the wording of the petition as it came. So, we've been asked to reconsider.
So-
So there would be a motion to reconsider,
Correct.
and it would.
And a second.
It needs a second. It has to be made by the prevailing.
No, it does not, on reconsider.
Reconsider does have to be made by the prevailing.
That's not what, it's not what he read from the AOE.
Well, this is
No,
reconsider.
reconsider is different than
Reconsider is different.
I believe
Let
in
me tell you, read
rescind,
rescind.
it doesn't specify the prevailing. Is it 111, Mike? 305?
Yeah, 111.
111.
Yeah. Reconsider.
Rescind. Reconsider.
It doesn't say that
It can
has
be
to
made only by a member who voted with the prevailing side. In other words, a reconsideration can be moved
That's
only by one who
reconsider.
voted aye if the motion involved was adopted, or no if the motion was lost.
What page is that?
That's page 315, section 37.
31537. Read that, Mike.
Read it out loud?
No, just, I want your interpretation. I'm sure the board is doing the right thing.
Now, they go on to explain that it's that way so that the non-prevailing side can't just keep moving to reconsider again and again and again.
All right, so
There
the
are other
board has been
procedural
asked to
ways to do
reconsider,
this.
and what Robert's rules, so I have rescind, but we're
It
looking
does
at
say that, yeah.
reconsider. So Mike, can you read that for us?
It says it can be made by, only by a member who voted with the prevailing side.
The original motion,
Yeah.
but not the second,
Right.
just the motion.
The motion to reconsider can only be made by somebody who voted with the prevailing side of the original motion.
Right. So, okay. I'm going to recognize Drew. You had your hand up. What's up?
I think I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I was on the prevailing side, so I think I'd like to make a motion that this board reconsider the decision. Do we have to specify the motion?
You have to read the exact.
The exact word.
To reconsider, well, and this is the motion, but the actual vote of the reconsideration motion will not change that. It will just, if we vote to reconsider this motion, then that motion will become a
Pending.
pending motion again.
Correct. So I would-
And if we vote not to reconsider, then that motion will stand.
I made the original motion, so I will make the motion that we reconsider the motion the board adopted to adopt the model the administration presented to move sixth grade to the middle school for the 2019 school year. And if it's seconded, I'd like to speak to it.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Drew, you're the maker. You may speak first.
So, first thing I'm going to say is I made the motion, but I do not support my own motion. I believe that we've been through a process which is thoughtful. I think we've undertaken a study of the data. We've looked at this over a long period of time. We did seek feedback and spoke to not only parents but taxpayers. I believe this board has done its due diligence in this particular matter. So I would urge us to vote down this reconsideration and move on with our agenda this evening so that we can discuss the early childhood education aspect of tonight. And that would be what I have to say on the motion that is currently on the floor to reconsider.
Any other members want to speak to that motion? Mike?
Sure, I mean, our community has come to us, a substantial amount of our community has come to us, with this petition. I would like to remind our board that, we're not a sovereign entity. We're trustees for our community in this case. I did not support the original motion, and part of that reason was we were given financial data on the same night that we were being asked to vote on it. We still don't really know what it's going to cost. We know it's going to take 2 additional teachers. We don't know where that money's coming from. There's a lot to still flush out on this. There's a lot of, I've seen a lot of, even a correspondence that was sent to this whole board recently, called it out pretty well. people feel that we didn't do our due diligence on this. And, it seemed like, from what I've heard, from the feedback I've heard in the community, people felt like this decision was made in July and that it was just placating the community to have these extra meetings and that the decision was already made. So people are trying to have their voices heard, which I totally respect. This board on multiple occasions has said we need the community to buy in so that we have the communities behind us. And there's also ambiguity about, all summer long we were saying, oh, well, if people don't like the decisions, they'll just vote down the budget. And I even recall saying in past meetings, well, is that wise to dare the public to vote down our first budget when we're asking them to buy into what we're doing? But a lot of people feel disenfranchised by this process. I think we owe it to them to give them, what they asked for, to, really look at it, look at all the data. Is it really wise? There's data to support that it isn't. So that's why I think that we should really reconsider it.
Anyone else? I'll just echo what Mike said, and the fact that these are the people that are sending their children to the schools, and they have every right. We're going to bring up a policy on school choice later. Well, you're just taking away a choice. That's my opinion. I'll be
Anyone else?
quiet tonight.
Well, I gotta say, I was approached by somebody today who asked me, please don't change your mind. My kid is in 5th grade and is so excited to be going to Leland and Gray next year. They can hardly stand it. So there are people out there on the other side. They're happy with the decision and a lot less, likely to show up and tell us. I've been on the board a long time, and traditionally when people show up, it's not to tell you did a good job. So anyway, there is that other side out there, and I have heard from them. Mike?
Just to reiterate what was in Sean's email to the board, where he said, the public comments were running almost 10 to 1 against this. So I can see how people feel like this board, or people on this board, had an agenda that they were going to just push through. That's how people feel. That's how people have communicated to me they feel. And when you look at the public comments, it's really hard to say otherwise. It really is. And then back to the whole voting down the budget, I asked in the beginning of the last meeting, so say that happens. Say people vote down our first budget, which, again, I don't think we'd want to put out a budget that we are telling people, daring them not to pass. But if they don't, have we misled the public by saying, oh, well, if you vote down our budget, then then we're going to reconsider the 6th grade move? That's a legitimate question. I don't think that that's automatic, and I asked that in the last meeting. But it was made to seem like over the summer that, oh, well, people will just vote down the budget if they don't like the decision. But I can see a scenario where people vote down the budget, but then the board doesn't want to reconsider the 6th grade move, as part of that. So I think there's legitimate questions there.
Anything else on the board? Can you speak to this? Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to reconsider the vote taken, and I won't read it back exactly. A yes vote on this turns that original motion into a pending motion, and we're now and then we would be debating whether or not we move the 6th grade to Leland and Gray or not. A no vote leaves the motion standing as it is. All in favor of reconsidering the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? All right, here's the ayes have it.
Nays have it.
The nays have it, I'm sorry. Of course I have it. So the motion stands. Okay.
Excuse me, are we missing a board member tonight?
Yes. Yes, there's one board member who's not here. He's the Wyndham board member and is...
Alicia O'Donnell's missing.
Oh, Alicia, yeah, we're missing Alicia as
So how
well.
do we vote without her?
The board can act if there's a quorum present. if we had to be unanimous, the board would never act. If we all had to be here, the board would never act. We're almost always down 1 or 2. Come to a Leland and Gray meeting, we're down 6. Howie can't come tonight. I got a letter.
You can't vote anyway.
He can't vote anyway, right?
Well, I was curious if he was coming.
Right. Okay, so, moving along. Correspondence. I have a couple of letters that I will enter into the, record as correspondence. Both of them deal with the 6th grade move. Neither of them is in favor of it. And I also have a letter that we received from Carolyn Partridge saying that Howie wouldn't be able to be here tonight and asking that we remove item 4C3 and not take action on the Wyndham vote until after July 1st of 2019. And it cites documents that talk about a pending suit that Howie was talking about as well. He won't be here, and they've asked that we remove that. Since the discussion of that motion has actually been laid on the table, we'll have to procedurally pick it back up, and then I have a solution to this that will get it off for a while. So, but anyway, that I wanted to let you know. Does anybody else have correspondence they want to enter in?
I do.
Which one?
Alicia sent me an email.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, I'll be unable to attend tonight's meeting. Please read this for the board's consideration. Fellow board members, I understand your desires to not belabor the process by which you plan to help students, but please consider postponing any vote on full-time public pre-K at Newbrook Elementary until all time has passed for the 6th grade reconsideration. Although these are separate items, they are logistically connected and could have the potential for difficult applications. I believe that slow and steady can win the race, and completing one item, including all reconsiderations, will be the most efficient route. Thank you everyone for expected patience and thoughtful discussion tonight. My gratitude to the private providers who are adding experience and creativity to the students.
Okay. Anybody else have correspondence they need to?
I got an email, I don't know if it was one, I don't think it was one of the ones that you mentioned, but I got an email from Jen Mahar that I just wanted to say, just the same general tone of disagreement with the 6th grade move. I just wanted to make sure it didn't go unnoticed.
Okay, can you send it?
I was just saying that I also got an email from Jen Mahar that I just wanted to make sure didn't go unnoticed. Just the basic sentiment as well, that disagreement with the 6th grade move.
Yeah, send it to
Yes.
me, and then we'll send it to Meg, and it'll get posted as correspondence on
I will do that.
the West River Board website.
I will forward the same one as well. I probably got the same email.
Okay.
You,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Anybody else? Correspondence? All right. Thanks. Okay, old business. The early learning presentations. I apologize to everyone who came to do this. I didn't know we were going to take so long to get to you. I'm sorry. But first is Carrie Dix, who is the EEE Coordinator for Wyndham Central. And you're going to start it, but we have presentations from several early education providers.
Yes, I was asked to kind of present. I work in many centers for Wyndham Central, so kind of giving like a global overview. So I'm Carrie Dix, I'm the Early Childhood Special Education Coordinator for Wyndham Central. So this does mean that I serve more schools than only the West River modified schools. So some of the data that I'll present is a little bit more global than just the 3 or 4 towns. And Bryn's very nice to help me forward some slides. And let's just keep going. We're just going to go through this. So I did share a lot of this information with the board on Friday, just as preparation. So basically, I was coming at this from the perspective of cost versus the outcomes of providing education for young kids. So for every dollar spent from the years from birth to 3, you get about a $7 return on your investment. From years 4 to 5, there's about a $3.50 return for your investment. So the earlier you start, the more success you're going to have with the investment that you make in providing early childhood education for kids. So the really interesting thing here in this graphic, so if you look, the green is the money, and the blue is the brain development for kids. And so there's a massive amount of brain development from birth to 3, but if you see, like, the majority of funding and spending for kids happens like way after this happens. So it's a little bit lopsided. So if you really want long-term results, like, I think the number that I have is like 14% of public education dollars are spent on early childhood in the United States. So without equal opportunity, some kids are not going to be as successful as others. And I think this is really speaks to a lot of what we see here in Windham County. Let's see, 50% of Vermonters in Windham County are at like the 200% of the federal poverty level. So the amount of kids who would be considered kind of economically disadvantaged is really, really high. So, and when they're able to access a really quality early learning program, there's tons and tons of benefits. They're less likely to drop out of school later. There's less teen pregnancy. They're 50%. If they don't have early childhood education, they're 50% more likely to be placed in special ed. 60% of kids who don't have, and then really what they're looking at is like reading proficiency, which is linked to early childhood, but 60% of the kids wouldn't attend college, a higher arrest rate. So if you can think about the economics of our area, and to place it in this, so there's like the achievement gap, and so depending on the socioeconomic status of the child, it affects how many like words they're going to be entering into school with. So if a child is coming from like a family that's on welfare, they're going to have maybe like a vocabulary of 500 words. If they're from, say, a working class family, they're going to maybe have 750 words vocabulary. If they're from a professional family, it's probably 1,100 words. So it's almost double from a welfare family to professional. And if you think about the demographics, the demographics of our area, I think you can kind of see how this would probably play out in our schools. And I know probably other providers do too. So it makes a lot of sense. It helps prevent the achievement gap, it improves health, it boosts earnings. There's a lot of economic development return on the investment as well. So then some of the local numbers that I looked at. And so we were just doing a lot of preparation for a child count for special education, where we look at all the numbers and kids receiving services, who we think might be needing services, and just kind of do projections so we can make budgets for next year. So a lot of this information came out of that. So I made a little map of it's more than just, like I said, the West River area. So my department is currently serving or following children in about 16 separate programs. So every one of those little smiley faces on that map represents a school, not necessarily the amount of kids in a program that maybe is getting services, but a different school. So, we also have kids that come in from birth to 3 early intervention services, so they're represented on this as well. So.
I'm sorry, can you just tell us the most northern smiley face?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually Londonderry.
Okay.
And then over on the far left is like Stratton. Thanks, friend. So yeah, there's a student up in Londonderry. I'm tracking a few kids in Windham. So then there's Stratton, there's Jamaica School. There also is a child care provider in Londonderry. So there's a few early intervention children there. So then I have also Timson Hill on the map, Sunny Lane over in Brookline, and then Newfane, and then Townsend's on there. So I also have noted Wardsboro and Dover. Yeah.
So quickly, these are either childcare centers or home-based as well?
One is a home-based program.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
includes both
Mhm.
in this.
Yeah, so I have the public, so I serve the public schools, I serve partner provider programs, and then there is some, the children who are in the home daycare are not quite of age yet. So we try to go where they are. So in some of it are child care centers, so Mount Snow is on there because maybe if they're just turned 3 and there's not a spot for them, maybe they're from, say, Wardsboro, and there's not a 3-year-old program, we would see them at that center, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just so here's a little statistic. So, and a lot of this, I mean, the really great thing in the last couple of years is that with Act 166, so many more children are able to access early education. And so from the Agency of Education, 8,115 children were enrolled for the 2016-17 school year. And so that was about 68% of the age-eligible kids in the state. So it was up 815 kids from the year prior. So it's a success. Do you have a question?
You said 68% of eligible children in the state of Vermont are
We're
enrolled.
accessing. Yeah.
Do you know what the previous data was on that? I mean, this is actually the first year of the fully implemented program, so.
Yeah, that was the number.
Has it grown, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that was the number for 16-17. And they said it was up 115 children from the
Oh,
previous year. I don't have
We don't know
percent.
how many.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find.
I can't do that math in my head. But I did go to nursery school. So, I think that let me just check myself. So you can, I was asked to, I try to like be positive and talk about all the great things, but I think you could imagine having so many programs spread out all over, how that might impact like how we're able to provide, specifically like special education services. And then there's just some inconsistencies come up. The access, you tend to be duplicating efforts, things like that. So for example, we did have a fair bit of just naturally happening, nothing bad, but some turnover this year. So I would say like the last 2 weeks, I had probably 4 meetings that were really, really similar, but for 4 different kids in 4 different programs, working on like curriculum and supports and strategies for, and we're talking about, special needs children. So, but I was sitting in these meetings, I'm going, we're doing pretty much what we just did over here. So you can see that that's not, I try really hard to be efficient and effective, and it can be challenging sometimes. Any questions or? Yeah.
68% is the statewide number?
That was the number I had from the Agency of Education.
For kids in private or home-based
No, enrolled.
Just children who are eligible, who are enrolled in a pre-K program, is that 3 and 4-year-olds?
Yes, age eligible, yeah, age eligible, so 3, 4.
Do you know what the number is for the district?
Oh, well.
I mean, I'm thinking there are very poor parts of the state that might be skewing that, and we might be much closer to 100%.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually, and I don't know that, since all the pre-K enrollments handled school by school, I don't know that there's really someone that aggregates all that data, so that would be good to know. But actually, one of the links later on in this slideshow is from Vermont Insights, and I was looking at the number of kids who are like 200% of the poverty level, and Windham County is quite high. We're quite high. So just to put that out there. I think, and that, another thing that comes up is maybe if there's one child in a program and they need like a little bit of extra support, and there's no other kids that need like a para, you might have a staff member just to help that child, rather than if there were more kids with needs in that program, it would be spread around a little bit better. Yeah.
The amount of staffing depends on the amount of needs.
Right.
Simple.
Right. So if it's one child has that, we have a person for them. Exactly. So this might touch a little bit upon, so these are my special education numbers that I do have access to. So currently, I have 26 children currently receiving early childhood special education services for Wyndham Central. So this also includes like improved transitions from early intervention and children currently having evaluations for services. And then as part of our child count prep, this is sort of a new bit of data gathering for us this year. There were 19 children that are either potentially transitioning from early intervention or could potentially be referred to the early childhood special education program for screening and evaluation. And that's just for this year. So that's significant. And I was asked, like, is this out of the realm of like what's normal? I'm in my 5th year, so I had to think back a little bit. I wasn't able to, I'm going with recollection, so it's not 100% accurate, but so when I first started, which was like 2014, my caseload was about 8 or 9 children. By the next year, it was more like 12 to 13. The following year, it was about 18 kids. And then last year, it jumped up to about 28. So last year, we luckily did have hire an early interventionist assistant, so that I was really thankful to have that, but also that's pretty much double the recommended caseload, especially considering how I'm not a special educator in one place. So it was kind of a lot. So we'll see how this 19 plays out over the course of the year, but every year it's consistently gone up, the numbers, they've never gone down.
Why is that? Why is that?
That's another great question. So I would say part of Act 166 and more children being in programs, they're just out more, and so I think there's more referrals coming up. You know, there's also all the drug crisis going on. I think we're sort of just beginning to see difficulties from that. But having kids in programs, it really, really helps. You're putting them in a great environment. But at the same time, people are able to see if something's not quite right, if they're not developing quite right. And I think also we've developed some pretty good relationships with all the programs, so maybe people are more likely to know what the process is, who to reach out to. But this is also not with us doing any like massive proactive child find, which technically we're supposed to do. We're supposed to really go out and do a lot of screenings all over, and we haven't even had our screening day yet. So that's what we're looking like. And that, I think that's pretty much it. There's links to the presentation. We follow this up with, I just tried to have a lot of different resources to look at, so.
We'll load this on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website. There's a ton of links to follow, just really good research papers and stuff. But everyone else is gonna tell you about all the great things they're doing in their programs, so I just kind of wanted to give a global view. Does anyone have any questions or anything for me?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it really does matter. I'm going to just close by saying it really does matter, and the quality makes a huge difference too.
Yeah. Do you have data on someone that you had in the early intervention that then is no longer on an IEP?
I do. So when they're identified early, it really does make a huge difference. I did have a child that came in. They had a speech delay, but then through that process, we were always like, check the hearing, check the vision, which is why the school nurses are so great. There was a hearing issue. They went to the audiologist, they got referred to the ENT, tubes got placed in the ears, they also got speech therapy. 3 years go by and we're doing the 3-year eligibility evaluation, and they passed. So that was a success story. So it does happen. It does happen.
If I could just follow up, though, earlier you identified the challenges that some children are facing, the better.
Yes.
Which is certainly why Act 166 was part of the reason why Act 166 passed in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's really true. And so that, for me, is, especially when providing IEPs, I really try to be mindful of advocating for kids to have, like, equitable access. So, because depending on the town they live in, they might not get the same things that other towns get. And so, like, so I have a parent up in Stratton, they had to go to their board meeting and, like, advocate for their child to have preschool paid for because they had an IEP. So to me, it's hard to watch that, and I always try to I did a lot to help the parent advocate. Did all the paperwork.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we don't, I think I heard you say, we don't know how many age-eligible children in Wyndham Central, and I'm going to say Wyndham Central not just because we cover Wyndham Central.
Yes.
That are not accessing a qualified pre-K program.
No, I would say no, because so how it works is the resident would register with their town school.
Right.
Fill out the paperwork to either go to the school program, to go to a partner provider program, to get those that chunk of money to pay for the hours. So if they're not choosing to go, we don't necessarily know, other than maybe cross-checking with, like, town clerk records.
So following up on that, it calls into question, I would say, the percentage that you stated statewide, if they aren't getting information from us, clearly. It seems like there's others they're probably not getting information from either, so I would question, I'm going to follow up on it. Right.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that with the AOE myself to find out, because I'm really curious of how they come up with the 68% number when, you know, we don't know in Wyndham Central, which is part of the state.
Yeah, and let me think.
I don't think we're alone in that. It's challenging.
It's really,
I know,
hard to track those kids down.
That number might not be.
And I pulled that from a article. Oh, I know what it was from. It came from the, where was it? Oh, VECAA.
The Vermont Early
Yeah,
Childhood
it was
Alliance.
so I think I had that open. There's a, we closed it down.
I'm sorry.
So they had like a position paper.
Okay,
I
so that
pulled the
wasn't the
statistic
AOE,
from-
that was
No,
the-
it was, they were quoting their information from the AOA.
Thank you.
So,
I'll follow up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's hear about the beautiful programs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've asked providers in our district to come and talk to us about what's going on in early education. You know, as part of learning about the whole early learning process, so we can make a decision here. We have somebody from Sunny Lane, right? Would you like to talk about your program briefly?
Sure. Tina Bills from Brookline. I'm the director and owner of Sunny Lane Daycare Center and Preschool. We are a publicly funded preschool, private preschool, where we partner with the Newbrook Elementary School currently, and we have our program is a little bit unique. We have newborn, 6 weeks of age, all the way up to 12 years of age. So we have an infant program, a toddler program, a preschool program, and an after-school program. We are open Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. till 5:30 p.m. We are a year-round program. Vacations, summer, school vacations, all that great stuff. We are serviced by, the Townshend and Newbrook School. We have bus service that comes right to our parking lot. So the kids can get on and off the bus right from our parking lot, which has been awesome for the kids and for the parents. It's a really nice service. Each of our classrooms has 2 teachers. One lead teacher has a degree in early education. The other teacher is an assistant and has some college credits in early education. Most of them are working towards their degree and are very close, or some have have them. Like I said, at least one person in every class has a degree in early education, and then the licensed teacher in the preschool program. One thing I know that Newbrook did this year, which was really exciting, is there's been a lot of information about that, is that food program where everyone gets free food, which is fabulous. I think that's awesome. Nutrition is so important for these kids. And for some of these kids, it's the only great nutrition that they get. That has been Sunny Lane's philosophy since the day we opened our door. We have always provided free meals for every single student in our school and every single teacher in our school. No one has to pack a lunch. We have a cook on site, so we have breakfast, we have snack, we have lunch, and we have an afternoon snack. That's all provided at no charge to the teachers or the parents. They eat, they get full. No one goes without food at our place. And I find that can be really critical. We have a wide variety of children that we service. We have foster families, we have grandparents raising children, we have single families, we have married couples, we have divorced couples, we have every range of different aspects in our group, which is great. We have doctors, we have teachers. It makes for a really nice environment. We work with the Carrie and OT and PT comes to our school for those that need it. We have kids on IEPs, we have kids on 504 plans. Early intervention is, I could talk to you for an hour about early intervention. I am also a foster parent and an adopted mom. So I have children that I can tell you firsthand knowledge. I have a son that we adopted at 16 months. He is by far unbelievable. We have a daughter that was 4 years and 5 months, and she has every struggle to this day. And many of it is because the difference between the early intervention and the good nutrition. There's so many factors that are in there. So from firsthand knowledge from my own kids, seeing it, it's really important to me that all these kids get what they need when they need it. Because in many cases, you can't make it up later. And that's the important thing. I was listening to Carrie, and we were talking about 68% of, I was thinking that maybe that number came from, I know that we were saying that people don't, if you don't know, how do you know? If they don't register or whatever, but maybe that number came from the people who receive subsidy, or the people that receive WIC, or that are in government programs. Because I know as far as Sunny Lane goes, I think our subsidy rate, I think is 65% of the people in our building receive some kind of subsidy, either partial subsidy, and that has nothing to do with the school piece. I'm not talking about the school, I'm talking about Vermont state subsidy for their kids to go to a program.
Can I
that
give a
are
statistic?
income eligible. I'm sorry?
Can I give a statistic about that?
Sure.
So one of the facts that I pulled up was that between housing and then what people spend on childcare, even if they're getting like 25, something like a lot of coverage, it ends up being almost 70% of the income for housing and childcare. So the subsidy is it's a great program to have. It's very helpful.
Yeah, and some of those people that receive subsidy, even if they get 100% subsidy, it does not cover 100% of the cost. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's kind of hard to explain, but 100% of state subsidy might be $200 a week, and childcare might cost $225 a week. So even though they're getting 100% subsidy, they may still have a $25 copay per week. So that's the piece that I was, maybe where those numbers came from, was from the subsidy people are getting from other places. Our program for the publicly funded piece runs Monday through Wednesday from 8:30 to 12:30, which is actually 12 hours, not 10, and we've talked about this before. We felt that the 10 hours was not enough time to do anything with the kids, or to do the things we wanted to do with the kids. We wanted to bring them on field trips and getting into the community. By the time you got them pottied and loaded onto the bus and back, it was time for them to go. So we did the 2 extra hours a week per child for the year, or the 35 weeks. So all of our kids get 70 hours of additional time that Sunny Lane does because we think it's the right thing to do. We do field trips with the kids. Different classes go on different amount of field trips. Infants don't do any field trips. Our toddlers go on field trips once a month. Our preschoolers go on field trips at least twice a month during the school year, usually 3 times a month in the summer. And our after-school kids during the summer go on weekly field trips. And that's in the community. We do all kinds of cool, fun stuff. We go apple picking, we go to the co-op, we go fishing, we go hiking, we go to parks, we go to petting farms, that kind of thing. We have our own bus, so we do our own transportation, and that's provided as part of our program as well. We are a licensed center for 50 children. We are full. We do have a wait list. I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to hear. We have, the frustrating part for us is having just the 10 hours or just the small stipend that we get. Because if you decide to move and put this publicly funded preschool in the building, Newbrook for instance, that may be really great for a lot of parents, no doubt about it. And expensive, which is a bonus. But there is a whole another set of parents that may not be great for. Not everybody wants their kids in preschool full days all day. Not everybody wants their kids in a school that young, that setting. So everybody has its own unique thing, I think. Timson Hill and myself are very different, but yeah, we all are unique and we have our own thing. And I think they're really both great programs in their own way, and it appeals to different people. Some parents pick a program over for a reason because it's convenient or because it's what they need to do to live the rest of their lives, to make their paychecks, to get from point A to point B. It might be geographically, it might be financially. But I think as parents, I would like all the parents in the community to be able to make a decision based on what they feel is best for their kids and their family, not what's best for their pocketbook. That shouldn't have to be the consideration. Do I go here for free all week so I can work? Or do I go here because I can send all my kids there, I can have all the meals provided, they can go on field trips and do all cool stuff, but I'm only gonna get 10 hours, so I have to pay half of my paycheck to cover it. So I would like to see, as a parent and as a owner, I would like to see the parents being able to have the choice and the families to be able to have the choice to what program works for them and suits them. And the program that suits them this year may not suit them next year. It might be that Timson Hill's the perfect program for them this year. Next year they might want to do Newbrook or something. So I just think that the parents should have that flexibility to make up their mind for what works for their own family, for whatever decision it is, whatever their reasoning is. I think it should be their choice.
Thank you. Anybody have a question for Lorraine? Do you have rating under the STARS program?
We're a 4-star program.
Anybody else?
Anyone we tuition to in the district is in the STAR program.
Well, the state requires them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we also have, do we have somebody from Timson Hill? Please.
So my name is Rebecca, and I'm the director and lead teacher at Timson Hill Preschool. We are in Williamsville, and we are a 5-star NACE accredited program, and we've been in the community for 30 years. We serve children ranging in age from 3 to 5.
I can't hear you at all.
Step to the front.
With the air conditioning on or whatever's running, you're lost.
Okay. So we are a 5-star NACE accredited program in Williamsville. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better? Okay, perfect. We have
children ranging in age from 3 to 5, and we offer programs 2, 3, or 5 days a week, either half or full day. We're open from 7:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday, and we are open just for this school year. We currently have 22 children enrolled. Our daily enrollment is 15, and we are also full. One of the things I think that's kind of unique about Timson Hill is that we're a parent cooperative, and so our parents actually actively participate in the running and operation of our school, which helps us to keep our prices low. We have a parent-run board. Our parents provide the snacks and the meals as a part of their service back to the school. They also participate in maintenance projects and fundraising throughout the year as a part of their contract. We're a play-based curriculum, and we have degreed early childhood teachers, licensed degreed early childhood teachers, so teachers that specifically are trained to work with this age group of children. Tuition assistance is available, so we have a lot of children on subsidy. I know at the last meeting that I attended, there was a lot of talk about difficulty with transportation. I know that there are programs in place for some of our families that provide assistance with reimbursement for mileage, and also for folks who maybe need car repairs. There are folks in the community that we can reach out to get some support to folks if those are challenges that they have. And so if transportation is the issue, there are already programs in place that kind of serve that need. And that's all that I have, unless there are any questions. We do have a couple people from our parent board here, as well as somebody from our building board to speak on behalf of the program. Wanted to say anything?
Well, I would like to do my comments during the public comment.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I can say a few things.
Sure.
Jeff Miller, Newfane. One of the unique things about Timson Hill is that, besides its longevity, almost 30 years, is that we were formed by a group of citizens, mostly Williamsville, South Newfane people, many of which are not with us anymore. 30 years has taken the toll. But basically, a lot of people without children, without any great, need for what they decided to create. It was initiated originally with two goals: one, to save the old building, which dates from about 1893, I believe, and one, to provide first daycare and then preschool. Long before the state or the school decided that it was something they needed to get into, there was a need in the village. And it's been, I think that there might have been 1 year in 30 that we weren't at full capacity. You know Kathy Gurney here, who was our beloved teacher for many, many years, who left us, and we're still not over. But that's just a little bit, that's the history. That's what kind of support it has in the village. And it continues to have that support today, financially, and whenever we need something, when we have to put in a new well, when we need to put a new roof on, it's been so tremendously supported by these two little villages mostly. It's brought me out, somebody who has never been in this building before, no kids, to come out and say this is a program that doesn't deserve to be just abandoned, which a lot of this sounds like, well, let me just say, I hope you're willing to consider that some of these 16 programs are high-quality programs that have been in place for a long time and that deserve to be, to continue. I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you. So we also have people from the public programs, both Jamaica and Townsend are here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Jamaica's first.
Jamaica's first, right?
I just have to figure out how to plug this in.
It's a lot.
I think it's this one. If I get this on the first shot, I get my test.
She said she was a 5-star. Yeah, they started off, they said they were a 5-star program, then a 4-star program.
Come on. Okay, my name is Brent Castamassa. I teach pre-K kindergarten at Jamaica Village School. This is my 5th year teaching in that school and in a combined classroom. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about our program and what it looks like in a public school and the advantages that I see and have found from it being in a public school. So first, a little bit about ours is we offer half days, 8:30 to 11:45, or full days, 8:30 to 3, Monday through Friday. And we usually have the parents, choose which program they would like to do, and if they would like to switch in the middle of the year, say they're doing half day and they want to switch to a full day, we give them that option. Our student to staff ratio is 1 to 10, as the law says. If you have a student, that's 3, and any other student, 1 adult to 10. Excuse me. We currently are 2 to 16. We have an enrollment of 16, and there's me in the classroom, and then we have a certified para as well in the classroom. We are a 4-star program, fully licensed, and we do the Eckerd's rating scale as well. We actually just had our Eckerd's assessor come in, and we got a great score, so that was good. So we're hoping to keep our 4 stars this year. So this is just what our daily schedule looks like. We do a morning meeting. We are curriculum based. I know that's like a scary word, curriculum. Doesn't mean we're just sitting around, doing paper. Play is definitely a big part of our day. And the curriculum we use, we have ELA instruction. They're doing the Foundations program, which is teaching them letters and sounds, and they're using manipulatives. Snack and recess, they're involved in specials, which include music, art, and PE twice a week. They have a snack recess, which we go outside for, unless it was the past 2 days. We have choice time, which is a free choice inside. We do a math instruction. We just started a math program with the pre-K, and we're not just sitting down doing facts like it was when we were all in school. Today they had to pick 2 crayons and talk about how they were the same and how they were different, and there's a big social aspect to it as well. And then that just shows our breakdown. Then they have a lunch recess where they get to go outside. They have lunchtime. We do story time. They have a mandatory half-hour of rest. Just means they don't have to sleep. They just have to have the lights off and relax a little bit in their own private space. From 1:30 to 2, they do a little bit more instruction. They have story time, and then some more free choice, and then they also get to take advantage of our science and social studies programs. So it is like I said, a curriculum-based schedule, but there's a lot of play worked in, and a lot of the curriculum that we use the BELLS, TS Gold as an assessment, and it's more of like a scope and sequence. Where are they starting, and where do we need to get them to be ready for kindergarten? Yep, you can go ahead. Why is pre-K valuable? These are just some of the things that I've seen. The social aspect, they're learning how to communicate with each other as well as other adults outside of their families. They're being exposed to new and different situations, new and different kids, people. And they are also learning and playing collaboratively. It has a big impact on their school and their social life.
They're communicating better at a younger age, working through conflicts. They're learning more about who they are and the world around them, instead of just being at home or, somewhere else. Academically, they're more prepared for kindergarten. They're used to a school setting. They're starting at a higher level than the students have not been in an evidence-based curriculum before. Just the test scores at JBS have shown that students who have been part of the pre-K program tend to have a higher benchmark result in the fall on the Ames Web assessment that we do. It's a benchmark, so it's just like where they're starting off. So the students that I've had in pre-K, and then we've done the benchmark assessment in the fall, have been farther along than students who were not in the pre-K program. Advantages of being part of a public school. I feel that there are many. Carrie talked to the special needs that can be realized at an earlier age. They're in a more centralized location, easier to find. They have access to the speech and language, the ELL, developmental delays if they need help with that, occupational therapy. Plans can be developed and implemented sooner. Their team is in the school building. If they have an IEP, they're right there. Students who are not as well off have earlier access to our food programs and other programs that run through the school. And their other academic advantages include students being familiar with the school and the school setting, and the teachers being familiar with the student. I know I have students for 2 years, so I know what they need, and I can give them more individualized attention with their learning and their social skills. Excuse me. And then I just read a study. It was reported by NPR, and I can send this to you guys too because the link's on there. It's the current state of scientific knowledge on pre-K effects, and it just reiterates the things that I was saying. Kids who attend public preschool are better prepared for kindergarten than kids who don't. Not all preschool programs are alike, and features that may lead to success include a well-implemented evidence-based curriculum. And like I said, I know that sounds very daunting when you're talking about a 3 and a 4-year-old, but that's just the language that they're using. It's still very play-based, which you can see in the last bullet. It says that instruction, I think it was the last one, I'm sorry. Yeah, build on social emotional skills and learning their letter sounds and doing that math work. So a combination of both is what we provide, and I think that is the best thing for those youngsters. And also just the experiences of meeting different people, getting that socialization.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any questions? No? And last and certainly not least, Townsend.
I got to log into the computer. That's a...
Oh, sure. You should have brought music or something, Greg.
I can sing.
Please do.
I'm terrible.
Please do. You shouldn't have offered because now I'm looking at you real bad.
But it should be an early education zone. right?
The ABCs.
I don't know, do they sing that now?
They don't do that anymore.
Within a 7 to 10? 6.
Uh-oh, here comes help.
Oh, sure. How do I get this thing up?
Oh, it was unplugged for... You were sabotaged by the previous presenter.
I understand.
Wait a second. Where did you pull this out of?
Vermont Early Learners.
That is never a good question when it comes to computers, folks.
Let's be appropriate, please. I got it.
Where did you pull this out of?
This is
I didn't
really
even
tight.
go to the inappropriate place. I just thought it was funny about the computer. Where'd you pull that out? I don't know, one of those slots.
There we go. So, I'm going to try my best to keep it slow. Whenever I get a chance to talk about my school and my students and my staff, I get really excited. And a lot of what just was covered by Jamaica is going to be sort of replicated here. So I'm just going to do an overview of our program, which I'm very, very proud of. We're a 4-star accredited program. We're licensed through 2020. We can hold 24 students currently in our classroom. New this year, we added a program which is our extended day pre-K. And the reason to do that is that it was difficult. There was a need in our community for parents to pick up their kids later from pre-K. 2:30 is really hard if you're on a working schedule. So we offered that service Monday through Friday. If families want to use that service, it is just $12 a day. So it's pretty reasonable. Kids stay in the pre-K classroom, they get an outside time. They get fed supper or snack if they need to. So that's something new that we're really excited about, and it's actually helped us out a lot. Our school in general offers breakfast, lunch, and supper to all school-aged populations, including fresh food and healthy snacks. For our curriculum, that's another one of the things I really enjoy talking about, and I think Al smiled at me right there because he knows about this. Our curriculum in pre-K, we have our TS Gold. We use Foundations of the Wilson for vocabulary and writing. Engage New York is something that we sort of dabbled in last year. We're fully invested in this year. And we use our second step, which is the transition program to go from pre-K into kindergarten. So we want to make sure they're appropriately ready. And the last one is VELS. Our next goals, as I met with Kathy earlier this week, was to go into a 5-star program. Just trying to up our stuff. And we are actually going to be working on our ECHRS, which is our early childhood environmental rating scale, which is just, it's a little bit more rigorous. There's a 43, I believe it's 43 point checklist just for our program.
It looks at like the classroom environment.
There you go.
I clicked it.
There we go. Kathy Gatto-Gurney, this is her second year with us. And master's from New York University. She's high quality 2008 Early Educator of the Year. Was the director and teacher at Timson Hill from 2002 to 2017. We also have Kimberly McCormick, who is also HQT in Vermont, has been at Townshend Elementary since 2013, and actually had previously worked with Kathy as well. So she's in our pre-K room this year. And I thought it was really nice to bring up the ratio. We currently have 14 enrolled right now. We have one that's moving in December. We have one closing on a house, and we have another one who is interested. So we actually do have a wait list. But right now we are, with those 2 employees and our 14 students, we're at a ratio of about 1 to 7, which is fantastic. And when I met with my board about increasing a little bit more and getting more students, they said, if we go over 15, Craig, what we want you to do is we actually want to add another staff member to bring that ratio down, because we think it's really important. We represent 3 school districts, Wyndham Southeast. We have some students from Bennington, and of course our district right now. just in the very bottom row, is if you are one of those students who is from Bennington or Wyndham Southeast or somewhere from around and want to come to Townsend for our pre-K program, we charge $150 a month, which is reasonable. And the reason why we came up with that number is to offset what the state offers us after our 10 hours. So we didn't want to make it extraneous. We want to keep it level. If you are someone from Townsend or if you're outside, we want to keep it on the level. So we charge $150 a month and then $12 a day for our extended care. I have a couple of these slides of like why it's important for children to go to kindergarten. Simply put, I'll sort of what I remember teaching not too long ago. I'll teacher talk this. Having students in school gets them exposed to the environment, right? So it sets up the expectations for behavior. It gets them set up for the expectations of learning. It gets additional, it gives them an experience of meeting kids, if they're 3 and 4 year olds, to be in a larger classroom with friends. So we're teaching friendship. We are teaching how to interact with one another. So those are just kind of like the short list. By having people in Townsend, right? So if we're getting some of those folks in the other districts, they're getting used to our school. They're getting used to what the kindergarten teacher will be teaching next year. And it becomes sort of a team approach. I am very fortunate that Townshend Elementary actually houses our early ed services, because having them in the building to directly service some of the students who are looking at, who we're evaluating, has been great. So I can just go down the hall and either talk with Carrie or to Heather or to Ellen, so we can sort of start the process a little bit sooner. So it's really convenient to have them. And I'm very, very lucky and unfortunate, and I don't want to miss out on saying that. Sets up routines. I think we can go to the next one. You know anything about me as well as I love data. So here's our curriculum. And again, a curriculum may be a scary word. To me, it's a direction, it's a focus of what we're trying to do. So for social and emotional evaluational growth, we use Second Step. Cognitive learning, we use TS Gold. The gross and fine motor skills, we use VELS. Language development is Wilson and Foundations. Pre-literacy skills is Wilson and Foundations again. We are investing in Eureka Math, which is also called Engage New York. And then beyond that, weekly we have PE twice, as we mentioned. We offer art, we offer music, and then our school uses our library, but also visits the town library here in Townsend. So it offers that as well. And then on the very end, over there, those lovely tri-colored triangles, is the kindergarten data from last year. So we do our fall benchmark, as we talked about earlier. We do our benchmark. Last year, kindergarten tested to the one on the left, which shows that we didn't really have very many in the green, which is where they should be, or what is expected for proficiency and what they should know going into kindergarten, which is a reflection on what the pre-K teacher did. I started my career as a kindergarten teacher and a first and second grade teacher. And knowing that I was going to eventually end up in this spot, I met with Kathy early on, and I said, I think it's really important that we make sure that these kids are ready. And so last year, we put an emphasis on all that curriculum, and this is this year's. So Kathy took that and ran with it. So with the Engage New York, with the Wilson, with all the things we're trying to do, you can see the difference between last year and this year.
Are those just the kids from your preschool and your kindergarten, or are those all the kids from the different preschools and the ones who went to your kindergarten?
This is just my school. Yeah. So these are the ones that she had an effect on. So I'm really excited about that, but no pressure, Kathy. That looks great. So it just shows that like curriculum is worthwhile, and of course, when we look at our students and our kids, we want them to be in that green. And as instructional leaders and as teachers ourselves, we're going to look at that yellow and red, those students in that section, and target them to make sure that by the time they get to Miss Richardson's class, they're going to have all the skills and abilities and proficiencies that they can. Sample schedule, plenty of recess, plenty of curriculum. I know that you guys are going to get this. Eventually, I've shared it with Bill. I'm going to get it to the television so you guys can all see this, but I know it's very small. But it just indicates what our days really look like and how it's really broken up. So things that are in a little bit brighter white, if you're in the back of the room, those are sort of our curriculum and specials. So we have every day we've created a master schedule where kids are getting the same time, same thing. So they're on a schedule and they know what's expected. We have math choice centers and we also have a writing time further on down. But in between there, and you can, if you're really good at reading, you can look at them. There's things like choice time, recess time, outside time, book circles, movement breaks, sensory breaks. So we're getting that. So when I showed you the data before of that lovely triangle, we're not focused completely on it. Those 3 times there that you can see that are bolded. That's all right.
Oh, wait, hold on.
It's all right. If you squint and whichever ones pop out the most.
You didn't do anything.
Right. Okay, I'm good with that.
Oh, it changed the bottom part.
Nicely done. Carrie really talked about this, and it was just, we didn't have a chance to connect with what everyone was presenting. But there are cost benefits for early education. And so, as Carrie mentioned, 0 to 3 is we get a higher return the more we invest. We get increased tax revenues because we're not having to provide special ed services. We've actually targeted those students and we've provided services to them earlier. And then there's all the other fun stuff. So we have reduced school expenditures, reduced criminal justice, like all that pops into place. You got something? Oh, okay. But I'm good for the next one. I don't know. Preschool is important to prepare children for the elementary school, right? Have them being in the same building is fantastic. One of the things that we're doing this year is, and we can still continue to offer it, is that we actually have a hybrid system. So we have a student and a few students who start out in pre-K, and then they finish the day in the kindergarten. And for whatever reason that is, whether it's emotional or social or academic, we're going to provide them the services that they need to learn and be in the environment that suits them best. So having them directly next door in a pre-K and going right to the door over can provide the services for both. I think that's real important. We can have full days, we can have half days. I don't know. We can keep rolling on this.
You guys are flexible.
Yeah.
That's most important. Everybody is.
This is really important, and I highlighted and underlined the bottom one, which I spoke about earlier, but having students and families get services at our school is really important because we're building that community. Having students in at age 3 or knowing students at 2.5 that might be coming to my school next year is exciting to me. We get to know them and they get to know the school, they get to know the staff, they get to know everybody. And so it sort of builds that small school community feel, which is important. And again, at the bottom line, just to reiterate, we offered that extended day program because our community had a need and we wanted to provide that. Next one. Yep.
I think you covered it.
Yeah, I think we pretty much did too.
The one thing to point out, so when many people up here tonight talked about the VELS, which are we do a lot of acronyms, right? So it's the Vermont Early Learning Standards. So I know all of these programs follow those, and just Craig's note down here about they're aligned. They just redid them, and they did them so they align to the Common Core state standards. And so the VELS go all the way up to 3rd grade, so there's kind of like an overlap. So kind of making that play-based model fit and prepare kids for like the Common Core expectations that are to come. So.
Sure. Following that, I mean, I could ask all of the folks who presented this, but since you're sort of here, I'll ask you. I just popped over to ask the Vermont Early Learning Standards. That's where that curriculum that we hear talks about, that is required for any pre-K program that is eligible to receive the voucher.
Yes.
So it's not just your public school programs that operate under, I mean, all of our pre-K programs that are qualified.
Yes.
Operate under the same curriculum.
Yeah, it's a guideline.
Right.
So for any, because it's also like birth to age 8. So any home care provider, it's a guideline and a tool to help support all the programs, any type.
So we follow the Vermont Early Learning Standards for our infant room. So from 6 weeks up, there's learning standards for the entire time from 6 weeks up.
So it's kind of all the little boxes you have to tick off to be an approved partner provider. That would be one of them.
Go to the next one, I think.
I think that's the last.
That's it?
That's the last one.
You're done.
All right.
Unless anybody wants to grow in.
What's
Okay.
your title?
Oh, I'm the elementary school principal for Townsend. Sorry.
Thanks. Okay, so we had the we had asked for that at the last meeting. Thank you all for coming and giving us that overview. I'm learning a lot here. It's been a long time since I had a kid in early learning situation. So we also have the survey and some of the other data that we had asked about for capacity and the letter from the AOE talking about the possibility of going beyond the 10-hour private provider stipend. Information for us all.
Before we move on, can I just ask one question of all?
Certainly.
Do you mind? Before we move on to another topic, because I
It's all
try
the
to get
same
a sense
topic.
of what, I know.
But yes, go ahead.
I'd still like to stick to what the programs are offering, and
Okay.
I don't care who answers or who comments on this, but I'm curious about, we've heard a lot about play-based education, and that's critically important to me. I think that it's really important for our children, and I think it's best for our children. I'd love to hear how much time is, or how much value is put on outdoor education as well in any of your programs, if anybody wants to speak to that.
Can you say it again? You said outdoor play?
Outdoor learning, actually getting out and the outdoor stuff.
Okay.
I'll just follow it up. We put it on here as important, somewhere here, to one of our values. And so I just wanted to know what our programs are on.
Play-based and outdoor
So
focus.
we offer, the outdoor recess times. They have 2 recesses a day. We also try to get outside as much as possible. I know in my class, like doing science, different things we do, learning about the natural world and getting outside. We've also done, as a whole school, we've done different things to try to get the kids outside. We did like a kind of like a forest fun program one year where the kids were out in the woods, and we did projects where we planted things to make monarchs come to our property, and our butterfly just hatched on Monday. So we do things like that. And we even continue to go outside for recess, even in the winter months. Granted, we do only do 1 recess in the winter months because by the time 16 kids get a jacket and a snow pants on, it's lunch.
And wet still from the
Yeah,
first
and
morning.
you're still
What
wet
time
from
is
the
dry
first
off?
one. So we do try to get them outside. I would say it's about at least 45 minutes to an hour a day. You're welcome.
In our program, the same thing, we go out every morning and every afternoon this time of the year. Again, when there's lots of snow and everything's soaking wet, you can only get them out once. By the time the stuff dries, it's time to go home. But we, as I said before, we go out in the community a lot on our field trips. We also have a little wooded area at where we are, so we have We have a fenced-in playground that we need to have for the state regulations. We also have a huge open playground that we can do relay races. We do a natural obstacle course with logs and rocks that we use. We do, we use the woods for scavenger hunts. We bring out papers that say, you know, find a green leaf, find an acorn, find a pine cone type thing. We go out in the community often. So we do, and then in the winter we have our plow guy makes sliding hills, so we can do sliding and climbing and make tunnels and all that great stuff. Snowmen. So we go out every single day, several times a day.
Yeah, we go out at least an hour a day, and that's actually required by the state of Vermont to go out an hour per day. The after-school kids go out again. So that's even more. We take a lot of walks in the neighborhood, whether it be to the post office, the library, also to the common, where we do different kinds of science-based things on the common. We also have a path in the back of Townsend Elementary School that goes all the way to Gracie Cottage and the assisted living, which is really wonderful. And in the winter, there's these beautiful sliding hills you can go out. And something that's unique to Townsend is that they have an underneath area. So if it's raining, you can still go out because underneath there's a roof and then a big building.
Yes, so at Timson Hill, we also go out about an hour and a half every day. And myself and the co-teacher this year have set up a little kind of outdoor classroom so that it's not just recess. There are sand and water tables, and we have experiments set up outside and different things for them to do. So an hour and a half every morning, and then again in the afternoon if they're there for a full day.
Plus you have that pond.
You have that amazing frog pond.
Good question? No? Anybody else? Questions about either the programming or, you know, moving on to the more documents in our discussion?
Do we want to take public comment?
Well, I think as we go forward with the, I mean, that information will probably inform public comment, right?
Well, I just know that the one person in particular that.
Oh, is there somebody with a question? I didn't see any hands.
Just
so.
wanted to, waiting for, there's a couple people waiting for public comment.
Can't hear you.
Is it, does someone have questions that they want to ask the particular providers that presented as part of the public comment before we move on to the next section of sort of the early education discussion? Okay. So we have the survey results, right? We got 43 responses. 58%, we had 43 responses, and of those 43, 58% of the people actually had a pre-K student or had a future pre-K student. 91% of the people who responded said they would like the West River Education District to provide full-day, 4-year-old public pre-K. And 60% of the people who responded said that they would like the West River Education District to provide full-day, 3-year-old public pre-K. And then the last question was, if full-day public pre-K were offered in a West River school building, would you enroll your student? 42% said yes, 7% said no, and 51% said, I don't have or expect to have a child that could enroll. So, it seems to me like should we offer question? The answer was pretty much a resounding yes. And would you send your kids? Of the people who had kids to send, it was a pretty good percentage that would send them. And then there were a number of comments that came in as a part of that survey. We got the whole data, and there's a lot of positive comments about there. There's a lot of comments about sort of what they'd like to see, but people definitely seem to be interested in having this early education. So, I'm looking for comments, questions, input, thoughts from board members or public here. You know, we have the capacity document, and in all the papers I'm shuffling, I cannot find my copy of that. Thank you. This was something that board members had asked, and it, you know, it looks like pretty. I mean, everybody, most everyone we heard here from here tonight is full. So it what?
So the two public didn't say whether they're full or not.
No, the two public were way below ratio and had more
So they're
space.
not full.
So they're not full, but I'm sorry, both the private providers were full with waiting lists. And it seems like, looking down this, most everyone is fairly close to capacity. I see one with 7 or 8. Yeah. You need a capacity sheet?
You gave me one.
Okay.
I don't think I have one either.
You guys didn't get the capacity.
We didn't get them.
That didn't make it to our packet.
But it was in our
You're right.
email.
It was
Yes.
emailed to us, and I printed all this out, and then I got more stuff. But essentially, I know, I don't remember who asked for it, but someone had asked to take a look at the capacities of the preschools around, and you know, they seem to be pretty well utilized. Yes.
I asked that question.
Okay.
So
These results tell you anything?
I'm actually kind of concerned because we said the numbers are right, that there's still 30% of our eligible students that don't really have a place to go.
Can't hear a word.
I said if the numbers we got were correct, there's more than 30% of the eligible students that don't really have a place to go for pre-K. And these programs are pretty much full. So where are we going to send them?
Expand capacity somewhere, I guess. I agree.
That's a statewide problem, honestly.
It's great to say we want 100% of the kids in preschool, but
We then have to provide the preschool. Or provide the place for
So it's
preschool.
voluntary.
Copies are right.
Copies are gone. And the AOE guidance that we got was attached to that.
Yes, you guys received a question about providing more than 10 hours at private partner providers.
Right.
And so you'll have the answer in a second.
We read it out loud.
Oh, here. I had it, they were attached and I don't know where I think Drew took it. So anyway, when we asked them about that, the guidance from the Agency of Education was that we had discretion to go above and beyond that obligation to fund that, but that any dollars used to support pre-K providers above the pre-K tuition rate would come out of the local budgets and increase taxes. It also says that if we plan to provide more, they also bring up that if we plan to provide more funds for some private pre-K providers and not others, there's definitely then an equity issue for families who may have no choice due to family circumstance to enroll their child in one pre-qualified pre-K program over another. This poses both a dilemma in the future for families who may also feel they're being discriminated against. And their recommendation was to follow the law and stick with the 10 hours. Yes?
I have a question. So these families that pick to put them into the public school because it's more affordable, what happens to those families on half days of schools, vacation weeks, summer vacation, where they're in a private provider now, that they're there all the time? What happens, what's the safety net for that?
I don't know, but we wouldn't be forcing anyone to choose to come to a public pre-K simply by offering it. The choice is always there, and the tuition for for pre-K, the voucher program still stands, and anyone who chooses to send their child not to a public pre-K program has that voucher and can choose to send their child anywhere they want. But you know, they would be in the same situation as any parent who has a half day or a professional development day or whatever when their child doesn't go to school. They have to figure out what they're doing with their kid for that day. Yes, Drew.
Question, to make sure I understand. So we have a public full day or half day in Jamaica and Townsend. Students in Jamaica and Townsend that choose to go somewhere else for 10 hours still can?
Yes.
So we have Jamaica pre-K students that are enrolled in private programs, and we have Townsend pre-K students that are enrolled in private programs. So by having public pre-K, we did not eliminate their choice.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's true.
Yes.
Correct.
It's true of everywhere.
Yes, that's
Let me make sure I understand.
okay.
I have a question. So the
Sure.
voucher you just mentioned, that's not the state subsidy. So for Jamaica and Townsend, they actually have taxpayer money, like voucher money, that they could choose to use to send their kids to a different pre-K program that's not public? Am I
Yes,
right?
it's 10 hours.
10 hours.
A 10-hour voucher.
So but it's the state subsidy that everybody gets?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a state voucher.
It's called a voucher, okay.
Yeah, it's $3,267 for 2018, 2019
Okay, for this
per
one.
pre-K child.
Right, but their choice is to go to a public place free all week, or to go to a private place for 10 hours. That's the real choice.
Yeah.
If no one's going to sign up
yes.
for 10 hours of,
Excuse me,
10
wait.
hours for one place.
A lot of people do.
Oh, really?
Wait, first, you really need to direct everything this way, not have discussions amongst each other, and please wait till I recognize you, okay? And identify yourself. Okay, so, yes, there's a choice, but that's the choice that that's state law choice. You know, the state offers that voucher, and that's the choice. Did you have a question, comment, sir? The back?
Oh, I was just saying that with my feeling was that anyone who wanted to send a child for more than 10 hours wouldn't, you wouldn't send them to 10 hours to one place and the rest of the time to someone else. So basically, it's, if you want to go more than 10 hours, you would go to the public school, basically.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Or pay for the private. You know, people do that.
They do it in high school.
I can't hear you, Jeff.
I'm sorry.
And I don't
Well,
hear anything.
I have no idea how to turn that off.
Nobody can hear, I'm just wondering if we're gonna turn that off.
If you choose, I mean, you could choose to actually pay the difference between the 10-hour voucher and the rest to send your child to private school. I mean, it's not unheard of. But, you know, that's not anything that we're causing to happen. That's state law. That's how it is throughout the whole state of Vermont. There's the 10-hour pre-K voucher, and then if you go to if the public program is longer, you can choose to do that. True.
Does anybody know whether if you have your 10-hour voucher, are you still eligible for subsidy if they go longer?
Yes.
So there is support for families that can't afford but want more than 10 hours at private?
Yes, there is. That's income-based. It's per family income-based through the state of Vermont. And that is totally on the family's circumstances. So one family may qualify, other family may not. Depends on the Vermont state guidelines, and that's a whole different entity. But it would, Carrie just.
Go ahead. You're answering Drew's question. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, the subsidy could, if they qualify, could help to cover a remainder. But then also to speak to your question, I do work with some families who may access the preschool program at a school for that 10 hours, and then they have childcare through another source for the rest of that week, because maybe it costs less, or it's a family friend, or whatever reason. So you're not tied to one program. There's a lot of options.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Is, just to clarify, is the subsidy, Vermont subsidy for income eligible families, is that still would apply also even if there were a full day program in your district or town or whatever, that still exists? Okay.
Carrie's shaking her head.
Okay, thank you.
Because you might use that to pay for Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's gonna get really hot in here.
But we'll hear each other.
We're all right. It won't.
We're fine. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was it?
Okay.
You answered it, thank you.
I know. It's awesome. Okay, so, do we need any more information? Do we need further discussion? Do we have more questions? I mean, Emily?
I just wanted to say that people have been talking about financial assistance. If anybody's interested in it, it's the Child Care Financial Assistance Program, CCFAP. And, you know, there's tons of information online about that. So if anybody's interested in it, you should be looking at it. Sorry.
No, that's
Just wanted to
fine.
make sure people understood what it is.
Okay, thanks. True.
Is our choice policy play into this discussion? Did we include pre-K in the choice discussion?
Sorry, we haven't got to policy.
I know, I'm just asking because.
You're out of order, we haven't gotten to policy yet.
Well, no, it's just a question for the policy
he's not out of order.
He's not out of order.
We don't have a pre-K answer yet, so I can't give you a policy question yet.
Where
No, that wasn't what your
the
question
policy
was.
subcommittee is flexible to respond to any decisions made about pre-K.
That's right.
Okay.
Your question is, have we had the conversation about including pre-K in choice? Which the policy would have to reflect.
Pre-K is automatic choice. You can choose your own
It's
provider.
not, it's not.
But as far as right now in the towns, only Jamaica kids go to Jamaica and only Townsend kids go to Townsend. Now, being that we're all one, no, I gotta know.
Knows everywhere.
Oh, see that?
Whole room.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so apparently.
In the public, there's actually kids from Jamaica that go to Townsend Elementary School?
Kids from Brooklyn, one's from New Haven.
Well, no, I didn't say, we're not there yet.
Sorry.
Jamaica and Townsend accept tuition students.
Right. Okay, now the thing is, now that we're all one district, and we are going to have a choice policy, pre-K should also be included in choice, which is up to these people here to decide how they're going to vet that. Correct,
Yes.
Bill?
That is correct.
So there's your answer. Yes, sort of.
Sure. But
Flexibility.
now that we're all one district, there should be no problem with Newfane, Brookline, Jamaica kids going to Townsend's pre-K program or vice versa.
I don't think the question is whether or not there would be a problem with it, but
There would
does
be
the-
no
will the
tuition.
policy address that, like, the policy could say that there's choice K through 6 and neglect to mention that pre-K is also going to have a choice in there, or did we take the policy down? That's the
Well,
question.
we can't discuss that until we find out.
It says pre-K.
It does say pre-K.
Pre-K through 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
for now.
okay, so
Sixth
that's,
graders
there's
don't
the
have
answer. Yes,
Right,
Can I ask
sixth
one more
graders don't
difficult
have
question?
sure. Is it going to be as hard as that?
I hope not. Do we have the capacity with the 2 publicly funded pre-K programs right now to accept all of the eligible students that are not currently being served?
Do we have the physical space? Right.
Can we, because our private pre-Ks are full,
Yeah.
do we have space or do we need to create more space? If we're shooting to bring all of our pre-Ks, in my opinion, all of our 4-year-old pre-Kers in, do we have enough room for them?
So it'll kind of depend on how the
How many?
school choice policy plays out and where people choose to attend. But you do have you have 40 students in sixth grade that will, or 40 students in fifth grade that will not be in those individual buildings in 2019. So conceivably, there should be space, but until the school choice policy plays itself out, I wouldn't know exactly how many, but I'm confident that Newbrook has space, and I'm confident that Townsend could have space, and I'm pretty confident that Jamaica could have space, have more than they currently have. But the exact number, I wouldn't know until the shifting of people making decisions about school choice plays out.
But the capacity, having the capacity to take all the age-eligible kids for pre-K includes running a public pre-K in all 3 of the buildings?
Well, that would provide the most amount of capacity.
Okay.
But is it necessary to have that capacity?
It depends on how many people take advantage of the opportunity that is provided.
So in other words, you won't know until you offer a program?
Right.
Okay. So then if the policy committee decides that we're going to open up pre-K to all towns' choice, then our policy committee will meet and vet that through and then present it to the board.
Yeah, I mean, what we know is that
But do we need, this is my question,
Sure.
do we need to have a full-time pre-K in Newbrook when we already have one 8 miles up the road that has room for more students if needed?
So it will depend on how the school choice policy plays out, because if the school choice policy, say for example, the school choice policy allows for 2 classrooms of 5th graders to be in Newbrook versus 1 classroom of 5th graders to be in Newbrook, then that would create an entire classroom, depending on space, to have up to 20 pre-K students. You know what I'm saying? So the policy limitations on the amount of school choice that is offered will dictate the amount of space that is available.
Oh, then we can't decide pre-K till we decide choice then.
Well, what you guys could decide is
policy.
that you want to offer pre-K and then figure out how to make it happen. That makes sense.
Well, then we'll have to re-vet our numbers. For classrooms.
That would inform, when we get to the policy thing, it'll inform the
Right.
conversation.
That's what I'm saying. So then we should do the policy thing before we do it. I mean, you're putting, which one's the cart or the horse? Which one's
Well,
first?
the decision on pre-K is, do we want to have it or not? Do we value it? Not necessarily down to the, and here's how we're going to implement it exactly. The implementation, we have time to plan for, and we can tweak the policy to make it work the way we want it to work. It's just a general, are we going to do this or are we not going to do this? Right. Well, I actually,
You're confusing me. What aren't we going to do? We already have public pre-K and we already have private pre-K. What are we going to do?
Are we going to offer
choice?
Well, so Ken, think about it this way. Currently, you offer every single grade in every single building that this board is responsible for, except for pre-K
in Newbrook.
Right.
Yeah.
So this board would have to decide if that is an equitable offering or not.
better? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I got you, and then I got Tina, and then I got Drew. So.
My name's Luella, I'm from Newfane. My question is, maybe it's already happened, but whether or not there has been a survey or a questionnaire put to the residents of Newfane and Brookline of whether or not they would take advantage of this? Has this already happened?
The pre-K survey that I was talking about earlier, that we got 43 responses.
Yeah.
That went to everybody
only
in,
email
that went
list
to
we have.
Newfane, Townsend, Jamaica, and Brookline. And, you know, 42% of the people said that they would take advantage of full-day pre-K, and then 51% said they didn't even have kids. So we don't have it broken down by town who said they would do what. It's aggregated, but we do know that it went to all the towns and that all the towns did respond in some way.
But you are correct, that if you didn't have some connection to one of the elementary schools,
Yeah, I don't think I got that email.
well, if
Yeah.
you're connected to one of the elementary schools,
Mhm.
it went out to the mass email list.
Okay.
If you weren't connected to one of the elementary schools, if you just have a 3-year-old, then you wouldn't have received that.
Is, maybe this is too much thinking, but is there a way that we can let people know about signing up to this kind of listserv? Has this already happened? I don't know. Like for people to sign up to get information or surveys in the future?
I don't think we do so many surveys that it would be really useful to have a survey listserv.
Or just general information, or like if you guys have a mass mailing list, if there's a way for people to sign themselves up to it. So not like you have to ask people to do it, but if there was on the website or a way for people to just self-select into receiving information.
I suppose we could have a sign up for our email stuff. I mean, we have a website specific to this board that that tries to push out all the information about what we're doing at each meeting and do it. And we do, you know, put things in the newspaper and on Front Porch Forum, and we try and push it out as much as we can. We haven't actually solicited, you know, sign up for an email list so that we can keep blasting it to you, but you know, that certainly would be something we could do. I mean, I don't think it takes much to generate a mailing list, to put a link on the website that says, hey, if you want to be on our mailing list, put your mail here. We hadn't, that wasn't something we had thought of. But just getting that out there to try and get somebody to actually then come back with a mailing address, you run into how do we communicate with them. So, I mean, but we can try it, sure. It hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, it just, in term, like, I think this is gonna be certainly will be affecting a lot of people who already have kids in the system, but there's a lot of, you know, newer families that are just entering into the system, and so those are the ones, you know, these types of policies and changes may be affecting more so.
Yeah, so Tina had a.
So I did receive the survey, and the only thing I was thinking that when I looked at that survey, it made no mention at all about the publicly funded partners that were private preschool. It omitted the fact that there were any private preschools at all that were partners with the school district. So if you read that survey just as it was, it appeared that the question was, if there was a publicly funded preschool in a public building, would you use it? There was no mention of, or would you use a private one that is already a partner with the school? Do you have a private preschool? Do you like that preschool? Why? Would you keep a private preschool with the 10-hour stipend, or would you go to a full-time? There was no mention of that at all. So that survey, in my opinion, looked like, for anybody who doesn't know, they don't even know there's another option. It looked like the option was, you can go to publicly funded preschool in a public building for free, or you cannot. What would you do? So I was that's exactly the way the survey read to me. There was no other option there. So I thought that was kind of omitting some people that have worked really hard to build a great program and have partnered with the school and done some great things with the school.
Well, our survey writing is somewhat limited in how we can get the responses, and you know, we're limited to 5 questions. That just what you said would take 2 or 3 emails to get all those questions out there, and you know, this was.
I just don't think it's fair to omit the information. I mean, it is information, it is a choice, and we are partners with the school district.
And
I don't understand why it was just omitted altogether.
We never said it. We just asked if full-day public pre-K were offered in a building.
In a public building,
Would you enroll
is
in a
what it
West
says.
River school building? Would you enroll it? We are the West River Board. We're trying to decide what we want to do with our thing. And, you know, the partnership, which is the voucher, is still going to be there.
The public doesn't know that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Hold on. Actually, if Drew had his hand up, and then I'll go to the back of the room there.
So I think we've discussed pre-K. I think everybody on the board agreed that 4-year-old pre-K and making 4-year-old pre-K is available is important. So however as conversations continue to develop, I think making sure that we have full-day pre-K available to all of the eligible students, including Newfane and Brookline, who currently have to pay for it, is important. So whether we do that by starting a program in Newbrook, we do that through our choice program, I think making sure that all 4-year-olds have access to full-day preschool is important. I am interested in seeing the data based on Townsend's 3-day preschool.
3-year-old.
I'm sorry,
3-year-old.
3-year-old preschool, thank you. And I do think that a year from now, when we have information as to how that program worked, we can make a better informed decision about 3-year-olds. But at this point, I do think we should move forward with the idea that access to full-day pre-K, not eliminating vouchers, not eliminating programs that exist, but providing access in one of the 2 options that we have. As far as I've heard, there's only 2 options, either through choice or through starting a program in the one town or the one building that doesn't have one. I think we should consider doing that. To me, those are the only 2 options that I've heard, unless there's something else out there, for making 4-year-old full-day pre-K available.
Okay. Yeah. Back in the back.
Beth Wells, Jamaica. I was just going to say that I am an incoming parent eventually of a preschool, pre-K, infant, toddler. And I am well aware of the opportunities that I have as a parent for my child. And I read your survey as really focusing on the option for the public pre-K. I didn't look at it as others might have looked at it, as discriminating against the private. I mean, I think that's always going to be available, and I don't know, maybe I will send my child to private preschool. But to have the option to send them to the public preschool, to have that option is so valuable. To have that, I don't know what my child's going to grow up and need when they're in pre-K, but to know that they have the option of all of the programs that are available is pretty great. I mean, I could send my kid to Brattleboro preschool if I wanted. I could send them to Stratton DayCare if I want. I can send them wherever I want to, and that's very powerful. And so to have that extra option to send my child to the publicly funded pre-K is a wonderful thing. It's equally as wonderful as having the private option. And again, I don't personally know what my child's going to need or what I feel like my family is going to need when that opportunity comes. But I just want to speak on behalf of us incoming parents, or myself, obviously. But we do know that there's options, and I didn't look at that survey as discriminating private options, but just more so focusing on the publicly funded pre-K. So I was just saying, we're pretty smart people, and I didn't want to feel like that voice wasn't being heard.
Thanks.
So as a parent of a preschooler, I want to make sure, I think that there is
obviously an equity issue that needs to be addressed. But I want to make sure that saying, okay, full day is your only choice, or, you know, like if you go into a public school, you can go for full day, or you can have, you know, pay your 10 hours and have more choices. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be so direct. I think I've had several people talk to me with comments about this, and I don't think it needs to be quite so drastic. And Jamaica does offer half days. Is that
yeah, it's an option they can choose.
And is it only it's still 5 days? You have to go 5 days?
Yeah, you would do Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 11:45.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to do less than that, a private option is obviously still available. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think Townsend did half days too, right?
We initially
Yeah.
started out half days, yeah.
Yeah, and you still can go for a half day or a full day, right? Or not? That's what I thought Craig said, but.
Yeah.
If I could clarify, when you get around to me.
Sure, clarify what?
This. I asked for it to find out if there was a necessity for more pre-K slots. I asked for it at the last meeting.
Okay. So did it tell you what you wanted?
It told me exactly what I wanted. Out of 43 responses, 12 of them came from Newbrook families that don't have a preschool in their public building, correct? So out of that, you would say approximately 1/3 of the people from this survey were Newbrook families, right? Since Townshend already offers and Jamaica already offers, you can reduce these numbers by 1/3, and then right off the bat, you take 50% off because 50% of the people don't intend or will not have any children. So you cut that rate in half. You take 1/3, so it's 1/6 of these numbers to these answers are the percentage of the population that answered your survey if it was equally distributed with yes and no answers to each town. So you would come up with 3 people from the Newbrook families would take advantage of a public pre-K building. Is a rough estimate, is what this survey tells us.
You can actually break that down by looking in the back.
Go ahead, you'll come up with around 3.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that parent made a really good point. If we don't get the survey to people that could give us the data,
right?
You know, I used the list that we had.
Yeah.
Which is,
Well,
are
I
you
don't know how to
connected to
get
one of
that
these
other
3
list.
elementary schools? So I think the point that the audience member made is very valid, that we don't know exactly. Here's what I do know. I know that we're going to get between 36 and 42 3- and 4-year-olds on average every year. From the 4 towns.
And how many
that
do you
guys
provide for? All of them, right?
You could provide for them all if you didn't have 3-year-olds and you designated 2 locations and you didn't have kindergarten in with pre-K in Jamaica. So if you ran 2 programs that took 24 kids each, yes, you would have that ability to do it. But again, until we do school choice, until I see where everybody moves, I don't know how to staff that appropriately. I don't know what to tell you.
So it
Are you
seems.
telling us to get rid of school choice? What are you telling us here?
No, but it seems to me like the simplest solution then is to say, you know, yes, we want to run a pre-K program for all of our students, you know, and the most equitable way to do that is to offer that in every building. And at that point then, let the choice policy play itself out and see what we actually have to run, right?
I don't see how duplicating two existing programs that already exist instead of adding more staff to a program that we already have. Number one, it's not cost effective.
Hey, man, you're talking about the plan that
Hey,
Mr. Anton put out.
Ken, you're back to Plan A and Plan B. I can make that same argument for first grade, second grade, third grade.
Cost effectiveness still has to add into your budget, no matter how you look at it. If you're gonna offer, you offer choice, you offer it at the existing pre-Ks that we already have. This way, you'll still have the same quality program, right?
And an empty classroom.
Ken, what if somebody in South Newfane wants to go to pre-K?
And they work in Brattleboro,
And
so.
they still have to come out to Newfane. It's only 8 more miles up the road. Is it worth it to go 8 more miles up the road to have
Isn't it more
full day
equitable to
pre-K?
offer pre-K at every single building? We offer kindergarten at every single building.
Yeah, we have to.
6th grade.
We
fifth
have
grade.
to.
No, we don't.
Yes,
We wouldn't have to. Plan A was.
We could have had 3 through 2
in
early learning center and 3 through 5.
And then parents can have kids at all different buildings.
Yep, and I could have people with torches on my lawn too.
They're already on mine.
Yes.
They're gonna come and grab them.
I was waiting for a lull. You have a comment, Tina?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm wondering if the option to consider using Timson Hill and Sunny Lane as like the public school with like some kind of, it's not possible, or?
We had the guidance from the AOE on expanding the hours there.
Right.
And, if we expanded the hours and said we will offer full day pre-K at Timson Hill or Sunny Lane, we would have to make that option available to every school, for every school that's able to take children, that has the capacity,
In this
like
town?
the ability.
Or
No,
the district?
in our
In the state.
district. In the state, everybody that met the criteria to be able to take a child would be able. We'd have to pay them to go there, and we couldn't, and it would be every family, every child, every school.
And so how is it different then from like the school choice for high schoolers, like in Wardsboro? Like, is that
Because
just
they
a policy
don't-
issue?
Wardsboro doesn't have a public high school.
We
They're
don't
not
have
a
a
member of a
public-
union school, and they don't have a public high school. So every Wardsboro high school student can take the, $1,500 and $15,000 and $500 and go to whatever school they want. They can use that to go to, Brattleboro, Wilmington, Leland and Gray. They can go to Burn Burton. They can go to VA. But then the parents are responsible for the difference between the tuition the state pays and the ultimate tuition the school charges.
Right.
And we would be opening that can of worms. We can't just say if you live in these towns, this is your school. And so the guidance we had from the Agency of Education on that is just stick with your 10 hours and follow the law. Yes.
Does that guidance make sense?
Can you just identify yourself?
Kathy Scott, Wyndham. I obviously have no stake in this, but does that guidance make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Drew?
So, can Bill do a better job, so I'll put him on the spot, explaining the funding? Because I think it's important to understand that it has a lot to do with the way that pre-K is funded. So, under the voucher program, and Bill, step in anytime.
Okay.
Under the voucher program that exists, every eligible student can take their $3,267
eligible 5-year-olds.
can take that and go to any of these private providers. If they are part of the school system, they count as 0.47? Six,
yes.
of a student under our daily attendance, and we get reimbursed through the regular school education funding. If we were to offer full day to a private, We do not get the additional funding from the state, and that comes straight from the taxpayers to any provider in that network.
That is correct.
So if the difference was $5,000, that's going straight to the taxpayers because it doesn't come from the state ed fund anymore. We can't designate a private pre-K provider and count those people into our daily attendance. So it's a very different funding mechanism than it is for high school choice. Kind of do.
Pretty good. And high school is 1.13, so high school you're getting $12,000 versus $4,300. Just one correction. Every child that goes, we get to count as 0.46.
Yes.
Scott Dvorak, Darmston, Vermont. I'm wondering what the break-even point is for a classroom in terms of the state funding that would come in for a pre-K student, either age 3 or 4, and the amount of money that it costs to run a classroom. Has someone looked into that and found out what it would take? If we end up opening a classroom up at Newfane, at Newbrook, and how many students do we have to get in there full time, full day, in order to break even?
So just quick math. If you figure that you have 10 students, I'll just do it on a ratio of 1 to 10. 10 students is 1 teacher, 1 classroom. Average cost for a teacher and benefits and all the taxes that go with that, about $86,000. You would collect 10 times $4,600, so it would cost $40,000 to run a program for 10 kids. If those same 10 kids were eligible to have those same 35 hours at a private provider, you would still receive those same $4,600, but each child would be eligible up to 3,267 times 3.5, which is around $13,000. So it would be about a $8,400 difference to those 10 kids. So it would be an $84,000 versus $40,000 difference. Does that sound mathematically correct?
Sounds good.
Thanks, Bill.
Who would get that, who would pay that difference?
All the taxpayers.
Uh-huh.
In the whole district, everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although we do have a statewide funding system.
And do we have to?
Yeah, it's got to
have-
run through your
and-
CLA. I mean, yeah.
And is there any other changes that need to be done to the building?
Yes.
Yes.
Anytime you
Oh,
run
yes.
a pre-K program, you have to be compliant, as everybody was sharing today about ECHRS. You have to go through the Child Development Division.
Licensing regulations, so.
Yeah, so there's some
Water
startup.
quality, bathrooms.
The easiest one that I could give you cost on is Marlboro just added a 3- and 4-year-old program, and it cost them $32,000.
In just building, just to start the program?
In just building, or is
No,
that
to
everything?
A one-time
their
cost to
physical-
update the physical plant.
to meet
You get the
standards.
plumber in there, you get the little toilets, you know.
Because they didn't offer it before.
You gotta be so high above the ground, and
Does the
water's gotta
playground
be
have
over
to be
here.
fenced in? Playground has to be fenced in, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just
No, absolutely.
goes, you know.
There are
We
start-up costs
free
to make
range.
sure that you are
We
ready.
free range.
Okay.
A appropriate playground has to be.
Okay, so do we need further information on this? Do we need more discussion on this? I mean, it's possible action. We do not have to make a decision on this tonight. But if we want something, if we want to task Bill and staff with more research, we should let them know, and it is 9:30. So do we need anything else?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we have pre-K choice and expand our existing pre-K programs to cover all 4-year-old students in the district. That clear enough?
So what you're really trying to get at here is we run pre-K where it is now, and we leave the Newfane building non-pre-K.
Right.
Okay. I mean, it's dancing around it a little bit.
It's
but
not dancing
sure.
around it, it's,
Is there a second for that?
Say it again. I'm almost with you here, Ken.
okay. To keep our existing pre-K programs, but open.
In the two buildings.
In the two buildings, open to all pre-K 4-year-olds in the West River District. In other words, don't reduplicate what we already have.
And you're confident that Newfane families are going to be good with that?
If
you're confident in that, I'll second this motion.
I might find one.
I'm going to second the motion, you know? Or we can discuss it.
Could I?
Sir.
Okay, wait, it's been seconded.
Yeah. Am I
So-
allowed to talk?
The maker of the motion gets to speak first, and then, Emily, you.
So, I can yield my time to Bill.
You don't need to, I would just say, I think that exists the moment July 1st, 2019 happens.
That was part of what I was going to say.
You guys could, if you run any pre-K program in your district, everybody's eligible in this district to go. And it'll be my responsibility to come to you and go, hey, we got 47 4-year-olds that want to go to Jamaica for pre-K, so we are going to spend $36,000 creating another room that we can make that happen, and we're going to employ these people there. I think that there's no way that you are going to be able to deny a parent from South Newfane to have their 3-year-old go to Townsend if Townsend offers a 3-year-old program.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think what your motion is will exist on July 1st, 2019.
So then we don't even need to vote on the motion we already got.
Well,
no, I mean, your
okay,
motion
then-
passes July 1st, 2019.
Then I make a motion, we do not put a
There's a
pre-K
motion
program
on the
in
table.
Newfane.
Hold on, you can't make another motion. There's a motion.
You just told me, I don't have, we can't vote on
I
it.
didn't,
No,
I didn't say that. I said we maybe don't have to, but you can't make another motion. All right, so, wait, before we start doing that, Emily, you wanted to make a comment here instead of Bill.
Did you want to speak first,
I
because
do.
you're the seconder? Okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, because Ken asked the question about Newbrook respondents in the survey. So I went through and I looked, and there were 12, this is Newfane and Brookline, so there were 12 respondents from the Newbrook family. And I didn't look for 3-year-olds, but I did look for 4-year-olds. And in the respondents, of those who have a pre-K student, there were, out of the 12, there were 10 who have a Newbrook pre-K student upcoming. And of those 10, 8 of them do want public pre-K offerings. That was based on this survey. I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't look at
Wow.
3-year-olds because
That's
I
a
was
lot.
looking at you.
Thank you.
Your motion. Yeah, I just ran through the.
Okay.
It says it.
Okay, so discussion on the motion on the floor, which is to basically allow our current pre-K programs to expand to take every pre-K student in those 2 buildings.
Drew, given the new information, does that make sense? Are we going to make all 8 of those kids drive?
Well, there aren't only 8.
Right, but I'm saying, we know of 8.
Right. I was a little disappointed in the numbers.
Well, we don't know if they would, with school choice, if they would all go to Newbrook, would we?
But if they didn't have to go to Newbrook, I mean, if they could go to
Oh.
Newbrook, they would, is what it said.
No, that's not what the survey said.
You're right, it did.
It says they would
You're
go
right.
to public,
You're
it
right.
says they would
Yep.
go
They
to
said
public
if
pre-K.
if public was offered, would they go?
Yep,
Right.
Said,
yep,
would they take advantage of a full day,
Yep.
4-year-old public pre-K?
yep.
Right.
That was the survey.
Can the maker of the motion withdraw his motion since it's going to be in effect anyway?
Since that would be in effect anyway.
Or amend it? Well, I could, but if I leave the motion, and it passes, there's no way the board can back out of it.
I don't think we can anyway.
You're not gonna get that advice from me, you're gonna deny some parent.
Well, you never know, state might change the rules, you never know.
Okay. You guys are the board, man.
It's not like they haven't done it before.
I'm employed.
Then we vote the motion down and we start over.
So any further discussion on that motion? I mean,
But there's no harm in supporting that because it's what we'll do. So
that's gonna
it's up to
exist,
you.
that's gonna exist whether the motion passes or fails, really.
But in supporting the motion, do we limit it to that?
Well, I think there could be another motion to expand the pre-K offering to the third building or something. I mean, I don't know, but just, I don't have a pre-K kid, I haven't for a long time. I think if I lived in Newfane, I would assume that that's where my pre-K would be, since they're gonna go to pre-K there, then they're gonna go to kindergarten there, then they're gonna go to, they're gonna just keep going up that chain. What does it do, what does it do to the choice kid who goes to pre-K in, from Newfane, who goes to pre-K in Townsend for a year, and then it's like, okay, back here where all the kids you don't know are, to the socialization aspects of those kids. Every daycare provider, every pre-K provider that spoke talked about how it was socialization and getting to know the kids and all of that. And by doing this, we would take a certain group of kids and put them somewhere, expecting that then they would move again the next year to somewhere else to go back to their other school? Or would they just then, once you've chosen to go to pre-K somewhere else, you're gonna stay in that school? I don't know. But those are my questions about why we wouldn't just, we offer kindergarten and first grade and on through up in every building. It doesn't make sense to me to not offer that just because of the continuum for the school. And yes, it will cost a little more money to do that, but it's not about money, it's about the kids. And I'm not sure that's,
So I don't know what the timing is on this, but it would be interesting to know what it would cost to build a pre-K program at Newbrook.
We can't know until we have how many students.
I could give you an estimate based on one classroom.
That's right.
Prepping a classroom.
Yeah, because that's actually true. What you just said is actually true either way.
Because we might have to do it in another
Because we might have to do it in another building.
Right, okay.
Right? I mean, if we don't open one in the Newbrook school, it's possible that based on what Ken just made a motion on, that we will have to expand in one of the other schools anyway.
Right.
I think it's important to know what that cost would be, both for
For the
obviously
expansion of
Newfane.
a classroom or to readapt a classroom
But-
and,
Well, I was gonna finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, in Townsend, in Jamaica, they already have the facilities, but they may need to expand a classroom. That would be different than what it would cost at Newbrook.
Correct.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, I would cost out.
Right,
So
because
can you
Newbrook
cost
would
that
be
out for us, please?
indoor and outdoor.
I got it.
Anything else we need to know? We could, so the motion is to continue to expand the current pre-K programs to accommodate all the pre-K students through school choice.
Four-year-olds.
All four-year-olds through school choice. It's been moved and seconded. Yes?
I'm just gonna ask a question about this, because if, we've been advised by the administrator in the room that this will happen anyway.
Right.
If we vote no, does it sound like we're not supporting the law, essentially? That's where
If you vote
if
no
this
on
board
this-
voted no on this motion, doesn't that sound like we're going against the law? Which is, because you just said it was required anyway, or you would recommend it as required anyway.
So if we
It's an awkward
vote,
motion.
if you vote against the motion because you don't want to limit it, right? Because you're not,
Think about the words of the motion first.
right.
What's the motion, Ken?
Yes, Ken. Well, we should have it read back.
Aaron, can you read back Ken's motion, please? Yeah, it's probably a lot of scrolling.
Yeah.
We've been talking.
Maybe add a and at a minimum, continue.
I just don't want us to send.
To expand existing pre-K programs.
He doesn't want to be a pre-K program.
But that's not what this motion is. That's my issue. You see what I'm saying? We know what he's trying to get at, but anybody reading this might not see that. It would sound like we're
Well, I
just
did
trying to-
clarify the motion.
So let's read the motion.
You got it?
I'm still scrolling.
It wasn't that long ago.
Have you looked at the minutes, man? She does
I
detailed
know, I
minutes.
know.
gonna say, I read a lot.
I know.
Don't need to do that.
I didn't get the whole motion. I didn't catch it.
All right, good. Then Ken, you gotta give us the motion.
No, that's not in there.
Ken, she wasn't able to capture the whole motion, so do it right now,
Okay,
buddy.
do it again. All right, let's see. It seems so long ago. A motion to expand our pre-K, existing pre-K programs to accommodate school choice, or to offer school choice and accommodate all 4-year-olds in the West River District.
Expand our existing
Pre-K?
pre-K programs to accommodate all 4-year-olds within the district.
Within the West River District.
And then, yeah, I could live with that. Yep, I can live with that, because if we hear from Newfane residents that say, what are you doing? Why don't we get one in our community? Then you can just have a motion that says, we're gonna create one in Newfane. I don't think it limits anything. I think it just really supports the expansion of.
Yeah, but,
I'm okay with that.
but I would just also, if I can.
Yeah.
Say that we don't know the cost of this either, and that's what
Well,
we asked for.
Bill's gonna
today.
cost out,
Which was my concern about a
Right.
negative vote on this. If somebody felt like we don't have enough information, I don't,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
see what I'm saying?
Yep, I do.
Well, once we're one district, we have to offer it no matter what.
You do.
right.
Right.
It's just a question of where and whatever.
Just hate motions that we don't have.
And this gives us a starting point that in the future, if we find that there's an even bigger need, then we can always revisit the situation.
Yeah, whether you guys vote for it or don't vote for it, it's still gonna happen.
anyway.
It's gonna happen anyway.
I'll leave it up to you.
So,
You'll second it? No.
so we can vote yes for this now and then come back
That's
and
the
revisit it
second.
at the next meeting and
We just need to.
Change
Right,
it
the motion
to
can pass,
all-
Bill can give us the cost data, and we can,
Right,
as long as we can do that, I'm
Redo
fine
the
with saying yes.
yeah.
yeah.
Because if we have another bite
Well,
at
we
the
can
apple.
do that no matter what.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
we always have more bites at the apple, I
Right.
think.
Okay.
Almost. Okay, so, any further discussion? Aaron, you have the motion this time?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All in favor of Ken's motion, which I can't do off the top of my head at another time.
But we heard enough.
But we got it enough, right? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. There will be pre-K.
Drew, you were the second on that one, right? Okay. Did you get Drew as the second on the?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 4-year-olds.
For 4-year-olds, there will be 4-year-old pre-K. For public pre-K for anybody who wants it.
That's fine.
In the West River.
In the West River, right?
You get yourself in all kinds of.
Yes, well, it's 10:15. Okay, so we have a special meeting we have to talk about. Let me find, you all have copies of the warning in your
just the
packets. Oh, just the officers? We got special packets? Thank you. So we have a copy of the warning being passed out to you right now. Basically, we would be adopting this warning tonight to hold a special meeting on November 6th, which is, in conjunction with the national elections, to modify the Articles of Agreement for the West River Modified Union Education District. The two things we would be modifying it to allow budget votes, public questions, and election of school director. It deals with that article. And we would be modifying it so that annual budgets and at-large school directors, as
Stay.
well as public questions. Like if we stay the way they are by Australian ballot. But school directors who are elected by the electorate in individual towns shall be elected in an annual or special meeting of the town. Such election shall be by Australian ballot in those towns that elect their school directors by Australian ballot. In any town not using the Australian ballot system to elect school directors, the electorate may vote pursuant to the provisions of Title 17, Chapter 55, at any annual or special meeting to use the Australian ballot system to elect its school district directors to the unified district. So essentially, Jamaica could elect from the floor. Townsend could elect from the floor. I think Brookline elects from the
Right.
floor.
It's only Newfane.
Yeah, it's only Newfane that does Australian ballot for everything, but towns could change that if they wanted to, but they would take a floor vote to change it.
Which is true.
Which is the way, yeah, that's just general Vermont statute.
And there's another article.
Oh, and shall the district vote to establish the fourth Tuesday of March as the date for the district's 2019 annual meeting and each year thereafter?
And again, that can be changed at each annual meeting, but you've set it up so that that is the system.
And that is the
March
date that we have
26th.
worked with our clerk and the various town clerks to, be far enough away from town meeting that it's not going to drive anyone crazy, and, because that's going to be another Australian ballot vote for them. So those are the things that we're talking about warning.
Correct.
So you need a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not going to read the whole special meeting warning,
I'm going to give
but you'll get a copy.
you and Bill have decided.
And I make a motion to modify the Union Education District's, what are the guidelines? What are they called?
Articles of Agreement?
Articles of Agreement. Article 1 and Article 1 on this deals with Article 12, and Article 2 deals with,
It just sets our annual meeting date.
it just sets our annual meeting date. So, I make a motion to that effect.
Shouldn't the motion just be to approve the warning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the warning.
Okay. As read.
Second.
Is there a second? Yeah, Al seconds. All right, any further discussion on this? Now that we know what we're doing. All right, all in favor of approving the warning as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We got a warning. Okay. That is 1 and 2. Okay, so the Wyndham vote. Yes, sir.
As you get into this, I just wanted to let you know that we actually do have a representative from Wyndham that we didn't think we were going to have tonight, so just wanted to keep you alert on that.
Okay. Well, the solution to this whole thing, the motion was made, and then there was a motion made, and then the motion was tabled. So if we pick the existing motion up off the table and just Howie isn't here to withdraw his motion, so we'd have to vote it down. And then what we do is we move to postpone the action on Wyndham's entrance on our acceptance of Wyndham until a date certain, and put it off until our first meeting, the first meeting of this board in September or October. I mean, Carolyn in the letter requests July 1st, 2019. Give them a little extra time just to sort stuff out after that whole thing comes to fruition, and basically kick it a year down the road. And then for a year, Wyndham never is on the agenda, but because we've postponed discussion on the Wyndham decision until that date. That was my procedural workaround looking at Roberts to make it so that and plus with it postponed to a date certain, we can't bring it back without a whole bunch of procedural rigmarole. It can be done, but it's gonna take some doing.
So,
Let's do that.
so Chair, Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could you ask the representative from Wyndham if that, does that make sense?
Yeah,
That works for you?
sure.
Okay.
As long as it's after July 1st, we're good.
Okay.
Bring it on, man.
I would like to table this discussion until.
No, there's
No, you
You are just.
No. First, you have to untable the other discussion.
No, I would like to table this motion about untabling the motion to table the motion.
No, please, no.
So how do we untable the motion?
So make a motion to pick up the discussion
So moved.
of the Wyndham vote. Okay, that was laid on the table by Howie at the last meeting.
So moved.
Second?
A second.
Okay, so, any discussion on that motion? We need to vote it down so that we can then put off the Wyndham discussion until the date certain.
So we're voting it.
So we vote this down as a procedural matter, yep?
Yes.
Unless you want to vote on it.
All right, all in favor of, oh shoot, Howie's motion, I'm sorry.
The table the discussion.
Nope, it was, Howie made a motion. I apologize, I should have had this ready. Actually, you know what? Howie just made a motion to table the discussion about Wyndham, so we did. So we've now picked up the discussion of Wyndham. So now, I don't know, it's off the table. We make a second to bring it off the table. So now it's back on the table. So now we can actually have the motion to delay any further discussion of Wyndham until a date certain.
I would make a motion to delay any further discussion of Wyndham until.
Anytime after July 1st, 2019.
Anytime after July 1st.
So pick a date, any
We
date.
have to give a date.
Till our first meeting after July.
Say our first meeting in August of 2019.
Perfect. Our first meeting in August of 2019. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion?
So this is what Wyndham asked.
This is what Wyndham has asked us for, a written request from Carolyn Partridge to not take any action on Wyndham until after July 1st of 2019. We've delayed it to our first meeting in August of 2019. And there we are. Okay?
Doesn't mean we're having any action on August either, because we're just bringing it back off the table.
Yep.
Or back on the table.
Any discussion on that motion at all? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could we move the middle school transition update to right now so that our hardworking Dean of Academics can get home?
Yes.
I do it to hike the Adnap tomorrow with a bunch of 8th graders.
Oh my God. I read through both the letter. I read through both the letter and the printed material, and I think everybody here probably has had a chance to look at that.
No, I mean, read it because I saw the goosebumps on your arms.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if we don't have questions, you don't really have to speak through this if you want to.
No, I want to speak.
I think it's
You
good
do an
for public.
overview.
Yeah. Okay.
On the video.
I'm trying.
Come on up.
I'm trying.
Tell us back.
So, Bob and I met with Scotty, Laura, and Craig about a week ago to plan a night for our 5th grade parents in response to the anxiety that is out there about the transition. So we've got 2 goals for that night. The first goal is for Bob and I to do a Q&A, present the plan that was adopted again to those parents. And it will also be an opportunity for after that session to have an elementary school breakout. So Scotty, Laura, and Craig can meet with their 5th grade parents to discuss 6th grade trip, consequences of the decision, as well as graduation ceremonies, whatever they want to call them at the elementary level. So that's kind of the purpose of that night. Another thing we're going to do at that night is let parents know that we're forming a school advisory committee. We're kind of modeling that off of Craig's committee at Townshend and kind of using the same process that he used. This will eventually morph into a school-wide advisory committee, but for the first year, the focus would solely be on the 6th grade transition. Before both of those nights, Bob and I are personally calling all 5th grade parents to personally invite them to both of these both of these nights. So one will take place next Thursday, and the other is October 30th, so at the end of the month. We have a date assigned already for the Moving On Up Day. We all got together, so there shouldn't be any conflicts. And last year was a conflict with Townshend. There shouldn't be any conflicts this year around class trips and Moving On Up Day. We also have a school committee that's going to be formed for Moving On Up Day, but we'll obviously get input from the school advisory committee as well. We've been in contact with NELMS, and before we would you want to commit to anything, we are going to get references from NELMS to see how beneficial this process actually is. So we're in the process of getting that now. We work with the Tarrant Institute, and Jeannie Phillips is providing us some lists of schools that she knows have had this done. So we're going to reach out to those school administrators to see how valuable this process was for them. You guys can see the cost on there would be $5,500 plus travel expenses, and then there would be 7 aspects of our middle school that would be evaluated, including things that that match up nicely with our with our values chart, whether it's involving parents and community, relationships, curriculum, and instruction. And then I met with Trish on Friday, and one of the things that came up is when when this board was in its infancy, we had pre-K values, K through 6 values, and 7 through 12 values. One thing that came up now that we know there's going to be a 6 through 8 building, and we spent a lot of time saying how different that 6 through 8 building would be from the 9 through 12 area of the building. It could make sense to create a separate values chart for middle school and high school. I'm not sure that it does or that it necessarily needs to, or how similar those two would be, but some things up there, like AP courses, don't really impact middle school. Dual enrollment courses don't really impact middle school. So whether we create a new chart or just determine what is a high school value, a middle school value, and what's shared, that could be useful for us as we move forward.
Definitely would be useful. Can I say something quickly?
Sure.
I'm sad that a lot of people have left, but I met with Mike, and because to me, this whole decision of moving the 6th grade is very important, but it also needs to be supported. And one of the things we were talking about was, really creating an identity for the middle school. Because in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, this is my opinion. My daughter's in 7th grade for the first time, so this is my first experience at Leland and Gray. But my opinion is that Leland and Gray is the high school. Oh, but there's also 7th and 8th grade. So it feels very much like an afterthought at times, and to me, moving the 6th grade is an enormous opportunity to create an identity.
For the middle school.
For the middle school. Mm-hmm. Is it an entirely new mascot? Is it an entirely new, different school colors? I don't know. I'm not talking about are we changing uniforms? I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying it's an opportunity to create an identity for these kids and to make them feel to have some pride in their school, their middle school.
I love it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's great.
Also, for the school advisory committee, we would need at least one board member to be.
Gee, I don't know who would do that.
Yeah, you know of anyone?
Do you want a nomination right now?
Yes. I'll see if I can fit her in on my schedule for an interview. So we can provide more updates as we go. We can obviously let you know how things go on the 11th and on the 30th, and participation numbers, turnout numbers, as well as participation numbers in particular for our school advisory committee to make sure that we get enough membership so it's real viable and impactful for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, you have a question in the back.
Yeah. Hi.
Is this also going to be available for incoming 7th grade? Because my daughter is going to be moving in with her 5th and 6th grade class from Jamaica. So she's actually a 6th grader, but she'll be transitioning into the middle school just like the 5th graders will be. So I'm wondering if some of these opportunities will be available for our family with our 6th grader moving into the middle school, just because we're trying to create that culture of hey, this is the middle school and it's really this wonderful thing, and let's make this transition great for everybody. I'm wondering if these opportunities will be available for our family also.
Yeah, my initial instinct is to say if someone wants to participate, we don't want to close that door. So, Yes, absolutely. The night of the 11th, because this did come up, and we mentioned the 6th grade with the elementary school principals as well. We did want a night just for the 5th grade parents, but when we talk about this, when we talk about the school advisory committee, that could absolutely be expanded. So maybe we have two focuses. Maybe we have the transition, but also creating, a middle school identity, which obviously involves more than just the 6th graders. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great model that probably would have been nice to have had for previous years. Moving into the middle school, it would have been really nice to have had that. And secondly, I was just going to say that I know a lot of the classroom talk that's been going on at my daughter's school has been about that class moving forward, and really kind of comforting the 5th graders, like, hey, we're going together as a 5-6, which is a great bonus for Jamaica. I know not all schools have the combined class, but Jamaica happens to have that feather in their hat right now. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, anything else?
I just have a quick question. On the school advisory committee, we've talked about school advisory committees, and I guess I'm sort of looking to you too, Bill, and you, Jill, on this process. We've talked about it at every school, having a school advisory committee. Is that what we're talking about here? And if we are, we're talking about what will soon be 6-12 school advisory committee, not a middle school advisory committee. And is the goal of this advisory committee to actually just be not that full advisory committee, but more of a transitional advisory committee for the time being? I want to clarify between the two. Is this actually one of our articles of agreement, sort of, or memo part of our articles of agreement, school advisory committee? I want to know what it is.
So the articles
Because our
of
board
agreement,
member representative.
that'll be in a year. This is specific
so
to the
then
transition.
Let's call this a middle school advisory committee or something like that, instead of school, because there is a label that we've all talked about for a official school advisory committee. This is not that. And you need to know that if you're sitting on it, that you're actually just doing it for the middle school, and I think it's great.
That was my assumption, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so we should label it something different so folks who read this aren't confused about what we're talking about.
Yeah,
People have asked us.
And Townsend is kind of piloting, they're kind of our pilot school. Pilot
Great.
3-year-olds, pilot aftercare, pilot student advisory committee. So that we have a model to share with the other principals, and they can begin those processes. So this is where it's going to begin at Leland and Gray.
Yeah, this is something a little different than what Townsend pilot, because this is a specific task committee.
Townsend is like what they're going to be like in a year.
Gotcha.
So it could be middle school transition advisory committee. I don't care what you call it. I just want it to be separate from what we have talked about, that every building will have one. Because this is a different purpose. Okay, that's it.
Any other questions?
Well, they could always expand on it later.
That's fine.
Right.
So
That's not what
I know.
Joe,
Yeah.
just a thought on the values. So when we created those values, remember we reached out for input. I would hope that we would lean heavily on Mike and team to kind of give us a grounding in those values. That was very helpful to get that from all the principals last time around.
Yep, we can put that on an agenda.
Mike right now.
Okay, go home, Mike. All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I'll give it.
Please.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. You're extremely
Have a nice
patient.
hike.
Okay, can we do policy?
Well, I don't know, we passed it over. Yeah, well, let's do policy.
Yep.
So tell us about this choice policy.
Don't run me over, Joe. Okay. We pretty much have our language down for the policy. Now that we know that pre-K will definitely be included, I think we're going to be really good on the language. Our procedures are, we have policy's down on one page. Procedures are pretty well set, and we've kind of figured our optimal class size as to not go over what's recommended with
So
the lottery.
are you ready to warn a policy for adoption at a future meeting tonight?
Hopefully, we will be ready to.
We were thinking on the 15th.
Right, are you ready to present something for us to warn for a future meeting?
Yes, on the 15th.
On
And
the 15th.
hopefully by
Okay.
November, we can.
And we're gonna have it
So,
read before then.
I was just
yeah.
gonna say, will we have it
I'll
ahead
work
of
on it
time?
this week.
I was just
You'll-
gonna say that too.
You'll have it a week in advance.
Okay, great. So we'll have that policy
And there's no
probably
pressure.
in the next week or so. And
We've
then
timed it out
we're
so that you
trying
guys have
to warn it-
time. You can
We're
do
trying
it.
to warn it on the 15th.
Yeah, but if you,
You'll have it in
if you
13
need
days.
time to warn it at the first meeting in November, that's
Well,
fine,
it'll
too.
be an item agenda for discussion by the full board on the 15th, and we'll go forward. Okay. So quick, Regional Career Center Advisory Board. I know Bill goes to those meetings.
So I just wanted to update the board. Emily wanted me to make sure that I put it on the agenda. I went to the first one. I have locked down the next three, so I totally committed to being our representative. I have no problem. If anybody else wants to join me, I will let the board know when they're coming. The next one is in mid-November. But it's really valuable. They have a new director, and they just got a review from the AOE, which gave them a ton more flexibility in how they're organizing their courses. They had changed their schedule to go from 80-minute blocks to 120-minute blocks, which eliminated a lot of our students' availability to do a half day, because they couldn't go a half day and then come back here, or do a half day and stay over there. So that has changed, and that is really helpful. They were very, very interested in the kinds of things that they can do that are complementary to the sending high schools instead of in competition. What can they offer there that we can't do here? That kind of stuff.
Good, nice. You have something to add?
I do. I thank you for offering to be that person. And I really value that, and I really appreciate it. I would also, though, encourage down the road for a board member to be involved as well down at the Wyndham Regional Career Center. There's an awful lot going on statewide around career centers, the funding of them, and I do think that a representative from this board would be very helpful. I'm not offering because I don't have time to do it, but I would really encourage someone else to do it. We used to have a board member on there who was a Brookline resident, and we got a lot of good feedback, and I think our feelings went back to the Wyndham Regional Career Center Advisory Board as well through that representative. So I hope people will think about that for down the road. I think it's really important, but thank you for being here.
Oh, no,
It's a lunchtime meeting, right?
11:30 to 1.
And they have a culinary arts program, and they feed you.
We've had
I've heard it's
we've
good.
had board members who work
stuff.
in Brattleboro take, that once, it's not every month. It's
Every 2 months.
every 2 months. So,
Yeah.
if you can take a lunchtime break, if you're working in Brattleboro too, that worked for one of our past representatives. Remember?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a long
Okay.
way from my office.
So, something to keep in mind. And the last
I make a motion
thing,
to-
what, no. There's new business. Bill has a voluntary,
So I would like to get permission from the board to offer a voluntary exit incentive program, which would be offered to any member of the WRED licensed teaching force. It does have some provisions. It would be, you have to have a minimum of 20 years working for either the WCSU or one of the existing districts. You'd have to have reached age 50 or older by July 1st, 2019. You'd have to make a minimum base salary of $65,000, which is at the top end of our salary schedule. And you'll have, if I get permission from the board, we would offer it between November 1st and November 16th, 2018. So we would know during budgeting season. And it would be an $11,000 amount up to 5 people. It would be deposited directly into a 403B Vanguard account. I would just tell you historically, just in the, I'm starting my 3rd year, but I've participated in these for 4. You can't guarantee how it plays out, but over the course of a couple years, you usually end up with people that are really excited about taking the voluntary exit program, and you usually end up hiring somebody that is at the lower end of the salary schedule, or you may not even need to replace some of those positions. It is not guaranteed, but we have found success in the past. During this time of great transition, I think it might be a really nice offer from the board to our very hardworking staff. It's voluntary, nobody has to accept it, but I think it would be a valuable tool in the change process that we're going through.
So 5 people?
Up to 5, yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion for Bill to go ahead with his incentive program.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that motion?
Nope. Don't hear any.
This, just so everybody knows, this is a very narrow window.
November 1st through November 16th. Yeah. First 5. Last time I did this,
isn't something,
I had 4 people waiting for me at the office.
The reason I say this is because this isn't open for everybody all the time. It's very limited.
Very narrow.
And it's
very-
always been like that.
Yeah, we did this 2 years ago.
I'm saying it only.
Well, they'll be
those
waiting
who
for you at
aren't
home because he's filming live tonight.
I had to be there at like 6:30 in the morning because teachers have to be at school at 7. and-
Okay, so, yeah, it's not only is it, a limited window, but it's also, the criteria.
Absolutely,
Long-serving, established.
Yeah, no, if it's the right time in somebody's life, I'd like to be able to offer them an opportunity.
Excellent. All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the voluntary exit incentive program, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
I
Like
make
to
a
make a
motion. Go ahead.
You're
No, go ahead, I'll let Emily do it.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which contains the minutes of 9/11 and 9/17/2018.
Damn, I'm getting slow.
All right, doesn't need a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
There you go.
All in favor? Aye. Oh, yes.
All right.